PlayStation announces the end of physical video games. Does that mean that physical collecting is going to zero? We're going to talk about that coming up next on the Ungraded Truth podcast. Detective Comics set a record for 1.8 million. Nobody really cares.
Who are annoyed that people are asking them questions, is this book bad? That question didn't exist a year ago.
Somebody's submitting like 25 vintage books and getting 15 9.9s.
We always think, how could it ever get crazier? And then it always does.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the #1 collectible show in the universe, The Ungraded Truth. I am Swaggle Haas, joined by my co-hosts, Neo, Rob, Cards and Comics, Ryan, Automatic Comics, and Manu, the 99 Newsstand. Gentlemen, it was 4th of July weekend. Happy 4th to all you guys. How was the long weekend here? What did you guys get into?
Still on my fingers, so that's good, right?
I saw some videos that it gives me hope for the future of the youth in our country, where they're still launching bottle rockets out of places they shouldn't, going out there doing that. So yeah, that was fun to see.
I got into a fist fight in downtown San Francisco, got arrested, but was let out the same evening. I'm just joking. I did nothing.
Oh my God.
I thought that was real.
You know what's funny about that little bit of a story? I was actually in San Francisco as well. And after I went to my friend's 4th of July party, I was driving home. And as I was driving home through downtown, someone threw a firework in the middle of the street. The one that's supposed to go like up into the air and blew up, and like the firework washed over my car.
Oh, gosh.
And luckily nothing happened. But if something happened to my car, I might have had to get into that fight that you were talking about, Manu.
Damn, man, it's crazy out here.
Do you have anything like a camera? Like, because I mean, I feel like that could be like a viral video, if you've got like that shot going over your car.
No, sadly I don't, but I did wish I got it on film, because it was pretty crazy. Kind of like all of the crazy topics that we have to get into tonight. We're talking about PlayStation ending physical copies of games. We have to check in on what's going on with Absolute Batman. Apparently, there's some aspect to this that's making the book go crazy out there, and we have some receipts that we have to pull up for a couple of our panelists, and we're going to get into many other stories, some 9.9s hitting the market, comic books having a big auction coming up this next week. So lots of great stories. Shout out to everybody in the chat for hanging out with us today. But before we get into those stories, we have to still do a little bit of housekeeping. Guys, the Ungraded Truth YouTube channel needs your subscription. You got to head on over to our YouTube page, which actually just hit 17 subscribers. And our most recent video about Magic the Gathering got 13,000 views. 13,000 views is kind of crazy. It's kind of, I don't know. You guys think that that's cool? I mean,
I was laughing at the 17 subscribers, but I was surprised. That was a pretty big jump from last week. I think it was like 1.53 to 1.7. That's a pretty good sized jump.
That's pretty good. Wait, did I actually say 17 as opposed to 1,500? Oh, got it.
Yeah, you've basically been a mess since this podcast started.
You guys have to understand, like, before every show, I'm basically cramming on the exam here, as I prep the show. So we literally slide into home plate as soon as I hit live. But the Ungraded Truth YouTube channel, head on over to the link in our description, guys. Give it a sub, and also head on over to our Spotify page. Give it a follow. Maybe give it a 5-star review. We would definitely appreciate it. As always, the Ungraded Truth is a co-stream across all our various accounts. If you're watching over on Rob's channel or Rob's X or Ryan's channel or my channel, or coming over from Manu's Instagram page, be sure to hop on over to everybody's links in the description. Give everybody a follow, because we definitely appreciate your support. All right, guys, let's get into our lead story today, which was the big news that broke the entire internet. PlayStation coming out with a big announcement that they are no longer going to be doing physical discs starting January of 2028. As you can see from their blog, physical disc production ending in January 2028 for new games releasing on the PlayStation consoles. This was a story that was met with a tremendous amount of hate. I mean, we'll kind of maybe dive into their Twitter post, which got 136 million views when they did this announcement. All of the comments here are like, just absolutely tearing them apart. This post has been updated many, many times. We'll get into like kind of the nuance of, what they have since said since initially making that post. But this has led to, a massive backlash, people going over to change.org, trying to get PlayStation to not be able to do this. In the wake of this, like I said, there's been some updates. One of the notable ones being that within the terms of service that they recently amended since this announcement, they actually say, if you have not used your account for at least 36 months, we may take steps to close it. In that case, we will contact you via email. This obviously is adding, insult to injury, more people getting really, really upset about that. And there's been also reports about PlayStation deleting, certain movies off of the digital network, which kind of brings us all into this mad world of, the digital environment and like not being able to have physical media, which, I want to steer our conversation because, as it relates to what we discuss and everybody who is in the chat is probably most interested into the collecting aspect and what it means for collecting. But before we get into that, guys, just kind of opening it up to you. When you heard this story, what were your initial thoughts about PlayStation ending the physical copy?
Who in their right mind thought it was a good idea to have the back-to-back stories of getting rid of physical discs followed up by, oh, and we're taking these movies away from you that you purchased? Like, who in the PR department was like, hey guys, we have a couple announcements to make, like we're just going to do these back-to-back? Was it just like, let's rip the
I feel like
Band-Aid?
that's like the right and left hand, like not knowing what the other's doing. Like it's just, you almost feel like maybe that was like two completely separate parts of the company and they just made those announcements. Just bad timing. Cause yeah, it doesn't seem like that was well planned. But like for me,
literally gas on a fire.
This whole thing is like, I hate the software as a service industry in general. I absolutely hate it. I've hated it ever since it started happening, when I had apps on my phone where all of a sudden they're like, we're not supporting this anymore, but we have this new version that you can pay us monthly for, like one that I had paid, a set fee to be able to have it the whole time. Like I have an app that I use for golfing, like for golf courses and that kind of stuff. And I bought it maybe like 10 years ago or 12 years ago because I saw that happening, like all this stuff transitioning to software as a service, and they had an option to pay like $50 or something for a lifetime. And I bought it then. And now finally they've told us that, or me, they're like, we're not supporting this anymore. Now you have to pay our monthly fee or yearly fee to get it. And I hate it. It's everything. It's like, it's absolutely everything that's transitioning to this. I know why they do it though. It's like they make more money. Like, I mean, that's why they do it, but it doesn't mean I like it.
Yeah. Manu, did you have thoughts on this story when it hit the announcements?
Yeah, I thought, what incredible timing. And what I mean by that is we have this enthusiasm in graded video games. We have record-breaking sales. We're already talking about it. And there's this conversation going on about, just games in general. Is this going to be a market that reemerges, so on and so forth? And then at the pretty much simultaneously, Sony drops this bomb on the kind of the video game community about, the physical aspect of this going away, just bringing video games back into the spotlight or continuing to keep them in this really bright spotlight. And then as a result, emphasizing physical media, which is what we all are talking about collecting in terms of the physical media representing the nostalgia of our youth and video games, so on and so forth. And this just kind of underlines that and makes it even more apparent in my mind that physical media will continue to appreciate, become more and more collectible and even investable as a result. Like whether this is a decision that Sony walks back or not, I don't know anything about that, right? And I don't buy modern video games. I don't buy much physical media in that regard anyway. So emotionally, this doesn't affect or impact me. I haven't purchased video games since I was younger, right? I'm not a gamer in that sense. I'm a rememberer. I'm a nostalgia guy. And I have like those mini Nintendos that they re-released, and I play the Marios that once you go, too far to one side, you can't go back anymore. Like that's my video game sort of how I engage with that. So it just seems really coincidental and amazing, the timing, and like I said, the emphasis that it puts on the collectability of the physical games that we used to remember. And I think it just makes them cooler. I think it makes them more missed. And I think that means that they go up in value.
Now, I'll say I saw Geeks Are My Peeps comment. I loved the Domino's Pizza response to this too, where they were like, we're discontinuing physical pizza. So good.
Yeah,
But,
like I mentioned in the setup right here, here's the Domino's response to
nice.
it. It makes us about as much sense as us changing to digital pizzas, which people appreciated.
I mean, so
anything but games, we're gonna try. We're gonna try, my man. Thank you.
My thought is I feel like maybe it's good in the near term, but bad in the long term, because these things are collectible and nostalgia based because that's what you'd used when you were playing, when you were a kid, that kind of thing. And so maybe this has an effect now for like this immediate term where we're seeming to have this resurgence in people like wanting physical things. And so like that's the immediate benefit. But 30 years from now, when the people who are growing up right now no longer have those physical things, what's the impact? And maybe there isn't a negative one, but that is something to consider.
Do you mean like in the investability of a modern game 30 years from now, will it have collectability because the kids aren't going to grow up with the physical aspect of it?
Or even vintage games, because I mean, like I didn't grow up with Golden Age comics, but I love to collect Golden Age comics, but I also collected physical and read physical comic books when I was a kid. And so like, if you don't have that anymore, is there something where you lose that connection to it? I don't know, that's just kind of one of the potential negatives I could see.
I get it.
Well, let me go ahead, Mina.
Oh, I just wanted to say, like, if someone's 40, 45 right now collecting video games, just a general question, like, how many years do you think that individual is going to be within the trade of video games, buying, selling, collecting, promoting, talking about enthusiastically? Like, at what age does that collector say, all right, yeah, I'm done. I'm too old for this.
I mean, I feel like it's not unreasonable for a lot, like if we can, because we know like comics generally tends to trend a little older, and like we can see like where people kind of are often when they maybe start to think about selling their collection or that kind of thing. And I mean, it's not unreasonable to expect the 70s or even into the 80s where somebody would be that age that they might be still continuing to collect that thing.
I mean, that's pretty encouraging. That's cool. That means we all got a good 30, 40 years to
well, as I said, it's like, that's why I said 30 years out. I mean, it's a long-term thing, but that is something that could be out there in the distance.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be in my 70s by then. I might not even know where I am or who I am by that
Oh,
point.
Stop it, Neil. You're going to be sharp as a tack.
Yeah, you're gonna be sharp. You know, it's actually really funny, not to derail us, but like, can you just imagine, like, are we all just gonna be still doing this podcast when we're 70? Like, are we gonna have our YouTube channel? It's like,
Absolutely.
hello, YouTube people, in Neo's like 70-year-old like grandpa voice.
Well, the transition to whatever the next platform is by then, YouTube will be long gone.
Yeah, maybe. Well,
I know.
I kind of want to let me just put a finer point on what you brought up, Ryan, because like, as we were kind of hinting at, within this story, a lot of interesting conversation around the collecting aspect got kind of spurred up, where after this announcement, just sales of sealed anything PlayStation like kind of just went crazy in terms of volume. Like just everybody just, on eBay, like all of a sudden buying all this stuff. There were like videos of people going to, big box stores like a Best Buy and just like buying up all these, video games that are sealed and that sort of thing. And it kind of goes into what you were saying, Ryan, where like in the short term, like there is kind of this like, panic inducement. People are like, oh, I got to buy it all, before, it disappears forever. But in the long term, will it really have that effect? On top of that, I saw people make posts on like the PlayStation subreddit where it's hopping onto the physical disc collection bandwagon, which funny enough, this post was removed by the moderator, which, I thought that was kind of funny. And then, this one here that Ryan, you shared in our chat where is it going to expand into the speculation of other people getting more into physical? And yes. I do think that there is maybe something to that in the sense that, even as we've seen where people like are, moving to a more of a digital future, getting into like AI content, or the more time people spend online, there's this other shift as well where people are like, more interested in camping or more interested in going outside. So you have these like, polar things that are actually happening at the same time. And I feel like there's probably a situation that happens here similarly where as we get more digital, people also want something that's more tactile that they can actually collect and hold on to. But then the last thing I totally agree with you too is that, like, yeah, but 30 years from now, the future kids, if they don't have any connection to collecting, a physical game, will they, who's going to be the next generation of bag holders? That is really what we all care about at this point. So, but I don't know if you guys had extended thoughts on, the stuff I just brought up there.
I know Manu's buddy has been talking a lot about like the physical nature.
Shout out Gary V.
Is kind of like the next wave of collectibles to go kind of crazy. Some people have been talking recently too about like why like card shows and Comic Cons and stuff are doing so well post COVID. It's like the one thing where you kind of have to be in person, or like in-person gaming at like your local LGS, whether it's Pokemon, Magic, Dungeons and Dragons, like insert whatever in-person experience here. Like those physical play spaces are booming right now too. And I think it kind of goes back to what you were talking about, Manu, with like we live in this digital world where we're on our phone constantly, but at its core, like humans crave being around other humans to some degree. And as we move more and more to this future like this, like there's less of that interaction in your day-to-day life. So you kind of have to like go out and find it in your off time almost.
I agree with what you're saying. And I totally agree with, I guess, what I was thinking. I think that's weird, but I think this 100% makes the memory and the nostalgia and the missing of physical media, video games, VHSs, all that stuff, front of mind, top of mind. And I think it makes that market more collectible as a result. I think 100% that is the effect, one of the effects that this has.
I do think that for sure, people are very interested in third spaces. And that is also, like you've already discussed, one of the reasons why collecting has gotten so big beyond just that of, social media. I think it's like a place for people who, are looking for outlets to connect with other people. These things have become like the perfect place for that. It's like the perfect storm to have that as like a hobby. But it's as it relates to like video games or the high-end market or people getting into like really expensive type of collecting, like I still don't know if it's going to have that effect. Like, is this going to be like the thing that launches, the video game collecting boom? Specifically that of like sealed PSA, graded 9.8 games. Like, I don't know. Like, do you guys have thoughts on that? Like, could you imagine that this gets people on board to sealed collecting? Because effectively that's what they're going to be buying, right? Like, they're going to go to Best Buy and they're going to be buying out like whatever sealed things sit on the shelf, and they're just going to hoard it. Could you imagine that this would have that second order effect?
So one thing I'm wondering, is it, because I thought I saw this in one of the posts, if you're going to buy this thing now, are you only able to buy it downloading from their store, or do they still sell in stores and it's like an empty box and it just has like a download like link or like a QR code or something like that? Because I just think it would be hilarious, like still grading those. I would absolutely love that.
Well, you set me up on something. Well, you set me up on something actually really interesting, and it kind of relates to something very topical. But GTA 6, which is like the most anticipated video game that there's probably been in over a decade, comes out at the end of this year. And when it does come out, they did announce that Grand Theft Auto 6 physical copies won't include a disc. Yes, it'll just be a code. So you're going to be able to buy, the game, and it's going to have like, the box and, the whole thing. But yeah, I guess you just open it up and you just put in the digital
I want
code.
people to grade those. That's what I'm all for. Grade those sealed boxes.
I think that they will. I think that they will.
I'm surprised that the video game companies themselves are on, and maybe they just didn't make enough money off of it. Because you think of like those collector's editions that were like a couple $100s, and you would get like a master. I know this is Xbox, but you would get like a Master Chief helmet with it, or like, some huge Final Fantasy statue, or like I have some World of Warcraft 15th anniversary with a big that came in a box like this big, stuffed in an office somewhere upstairs. Like, it's weird thinking that stuff might not exist anymore. Like those big, huge. When I used to work at Best Buy, we would hate when those things would come in because they would take up so much space.
Neil used to work at Best Buy?
Yeah, man. I was a blue boxer for a long time.
Where were you?
Best Buy. I worked at Best Buy for a long time.
No. I mean, what department were you in the store?
started in mobile, then went to home theater and worked in home theater for the longest time, and digital cameras for a little bit.
Damn,
And
getting
then
your
I
heavy
ended my
item sales
career in
on.
gaming.
Nice.
In gaming, actually,
Nice, very cool.
but spent the longest period of time in home theater. I worked there in college, and then once I graduated, they kept me on as occasional seasonal for like way longer than they should have. And then I would just come back and work like the weekends at Christmas time just for the discount.
Nice. That's cool.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's important to point out that this is just PlayStation. Xbox, who has a slew of its own problems, is not necessarily jumping on this bandwagon either. So maybe there still is going to be those types of like tchotchke, like statue, comes with collector's edition physical things. And at the same time, like it seems like, based on how this is going PR wise, like it seems like Xbox has like a huge opportunity to, really lean into that actually. But also the truth that is kind of interesting is I think that if you really looked at the numbers though, like just from a PlayStation's standpoint, it probably makes sense for them to just not do physical. I bet that it is the case that 90% of the people who buy video games today are probably digitally downloading them for the most part. So it's one of those, like, I think,
Well, I mean, like, how many, like, one thing I still have on my computer is Steam. Like, how many people have been using Steam for a long time, which is just all digital download?
I am a big Steam user myself, and yes, it is all digital download. And I do think this kind of derails the conversation. It definitely gets more into like a digital consumer protection rights and that sort of thing, because I do think that it's lame that you're effectively renting all these things that you buy. And it probably there's all these like dystopian cyberpunk futures that we can look forward to with all the tech companies continue to do this, and the inshedification process where it's like, yeah, like you'll buy a Tesla and then you have to subscribe and pay subscription to own AC in your Tesla, and then and all these little like ways in which like they can like the companies will continue to make you sort of rent the thing and you can never actually own it. And so it's like
Rivian. I have a friend that works at Rivian, and like I heard that they were talking about like implementing something where you had to pay a fee to basically be able to use their equivalent of whatever it's called, the where you use like Apple in your car. I can't remember what that's
Apple CarPlay.
Like CarPlay. Like you had to pay a service fee to be able to use that equipment. I was like, that drives me nuts. I was like, that's ridiculous. Like to have to pay a service for a car that you own, that you pay for. But I mean, yeah, I keep kind of like joking, like show this game, but it's like, this is from a PS3, it's Final Fantasy 13. And like me, like I feel like every 5 years I like pull this game out and I just like, I'm like, I'm going to go play this again. I love the Final Fantasy stuff. And so like, I like having that. And then seeing that thing where you were showing that like, if you don't play something for 30 or log in for 36 months, like they'll like, basically like, it sounds like they'll like delete all your stuff. Even if they let you know, it's like, what if that gets sent to junk mail, which a lot of times that kind of stuff does. And so then you end up losing all your status or like your progress, or you just lose the game entirely and you have to buy it again. I mean, it's all that kind of garbage that it's just not having like, I said this in our chat, like I'm not like super hung up on the physical media stuff, but it's the reason why I never buy movies, like that we talked about, like from services, like whether it was from like Verizon, Fios or Comcast or any of those, because then if you move and you no longer have Comcast, all those movies you bought are just in the garbage. Like you don't own them anymore. Like,
totally.
It's like all that kind of stuff just drives me nuts.
What this makes me think of is our friend in the chat here. Where'd that comment go? Real Talk Russ, what up, my man? He goes, where's the excitement of digital copies? It's like NFTs, LOL. And I'm not here to pick on NFTs or anything like that. But what he said reminded me of a thought that I had when we, first started to kind of have this conversation. And, when this whole vaulting thing sort of came into play for collectibles, I've been very vocal about the fact that I like touching my cards and my comics. Like I like to have the physical item, the idea of it just being vaulted away and then being sold by that company and then shipped to whomever owns it. And then that person's going to vault it away. It never connected with me. It doesn't feel like my variety of collecting. And because there's a physical asset, a physical media, you know, a thing that I remember and love, but now this environment, this ecosystem's created of the idea of it being traded around. Essentially, we don't actually get to inspect it. We don't actually get to see the finer points of what made this one the 9.8 or the 9.9. Is it overgraded, undergraded? You know, all of these things, right? And so it's really interesting that a company takes away the physical, and rightfully everyone's in an uproar, but I was sort of just apprehensive about the idea of physical goods being conducted in an intangible sort of way, because it represents this thing. Like, well, you're not collecting, but I'm not super against it. Like, if you're investing in it, you don't have to have it. A lot of times I buy a physical item and it's stored away and I don't see it for years anyway, right? So am I contradicting myself? Am I being a hypocrite? I don't know, but this reminds me of that, like this world where a card comes out, someone on Whatnot rips it for you, they ship it to a grader for you, the grader grades it, puts it on sale on their eBay page, the buyer buys it, it gets vaulted. The physical item kind of doesn't exist anyway in that sort of regard, right? So it reminds me of that.
But you know what the difference is on that? Is the that you have the option in theory
Yeah,
to have it. And I
correct.
think that's where a lot of the anger comes from. Because even like I said for myself, like
Yeah.
I am somebody who buys all my games on Steam and I don't kind of care or whatever. But like I would still love to know that if I wanted to go buy whatever video game
Yeah.
physically, I could do that.
Oh,
And I think taking away that autonomy from people is really
correct.
what's annoying about it. And not to derail too, but a little thing about the NFTs is like, the big problem with NFTs is that there's no self custody. At least there was with the OpenSea, but that's kind of like in the ownership aspect here too, where it's like if you're buying, NFTs through like when DC came out with like they were doing like caped cowl things, and you're like buying this digital product, but like really you're beholden to DC so long as that company is running and all those things, and you don't actually have self custody. Anyways, not to endorse, not
What
to
are
be a
those?
big
What are
flavor
those
out there, but
cowls worth now? I completely forgot about those. You
yeah.
mentioned that. I remember people just like telling you like these are going to be so valuable, and I have to imagine they're worth just nothing, like
That's
nothing now.
That's a really good point, Swag, both what you're making and what Ryan said about the control, about the feeling of ownership, right? It feels like you're renting something, you're vulnerable. This anxiety that people like, I'm not big on technology. I get anxiety, I'm old, right? But like passwords and logins and updates and system updates and system requirements, all of those things make me feel like that I can lose something at any time, and that creates anxiety. Having it physically, knowing where it is, that is simple, and I love that. Like all of our memories are stored digitally, and we're just hoping that our hard drive or our backup is working correctly in order to actually feel like we have these things. I think the younger people, anyone that's a teenager right now, is probably completely conditioned to a fully digital environment, and they don't have those anxieties. But we grew up where that wasn't the case, and all of this was kind of introduced in our lifetime. And my conditioning was not that, So anything that involves technology, I just don't feel like I have control of it.
Well, I think it'll be interesting. However this shakes out as it relates to like the second and third order effects with collecting, specifically that of video games. I have to imagine that there's going to be those people who hear this news, they are upset about it. They go to, Best Buy, they go pick up some of those sealed games, and all of a sudden that might push them down, the pipeline or the road to like sealed games. Like, what is this? Oh, like, thinking more physically about this type of stuff. And who knows, like, what if this, 10 years from now ends up being, one of the big little catalysts and on top of the Mario Brothers sales to lead to at least a subset of people getting into it. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could be.
It could, and I hope it does. And before we leave this segment, everyone's shown a game. I still haven't bought my first graded game, but I do have my first graded VHS ever. It's a CGC graded VHS, a VHS I love. I was looking for a sealed copy. I do have a sealed copy finally. It's graded. It's this one. It's this one. It's that Stan Lee Presents the Greats, the Todd McFarlane one, the first cover of Spawn, but it's a CGC 9.4. Friend of mine does have a 9.6. We do believe 9.6 is the highest grade, but this is my first sealed, graded physical media, and I'm going to keep buying stuff. So I love it. I think it's very cool. And these slabs are pretty, they're pretty nifty. Nice little slabs. All right, that's it.
Very cool. I mean, if there was a video game that was Todd McFarlane, you would have owned it yesterday, I feel like.
There's a Spawn video game. There is an actual Spawn video game. I just don't have it yet.
What are you doing? What are you
I don't
doing?
know. I'm dragging my feet. Now everything's too expensive for me. I fucked up.
All right. Well, guys, you have anything else to kind of touch on with physical media being dead? Is it over? Are we going to get a collector's boom? What do you think? Just final thoughts here.
I mean, it's a good thing GameStop pivoted when they did to going full into collectibles and cards and getting out of the video game business.
Well, yeah, I saw somebody's comment on that where like, is this like the end of GameStop? And I was like, I don't even know how much of GameStop's business is even in reselling games anymore, considering that's what was like basically putting them out of business like 6 or 7 years ago. So I imagine that's not a huge concern to them.
Now they're like Charizard stop now.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, it's interesting to see, what happens with this. We'll have to keep our eye on it. We'll have to talk more about graded video games in the future. But until then, we got to move on to our next topic, which, here on the Ungraded Truth, we always give you the truth. And we are not shy to pull up some receipts from time to time, which in this next segment,
the year isn't over yet.
We might have to pull up some receipts, but let's set up the story proper. Guys, I don't know if you guys heard, but DC Studios and Warner Brothers announced that they have a new animation slate of shows soon to be coming out, notably the Joker, Laugh Riot, Crypto, and maybe most importantly, Absolute Batman coming to an animated series near you. This caught the market like crazy. Everybody was talking about this. People were going wild out there to the point where Absolute Batman 1 sales have seen not just a flurry of volume, but in terms of value, just instantaneously doubling overnight. I mentioned in my video coverage of this where I haven't seen this type of FOMO after announcement, 2x the price since the COVID times. But there you can see, just from the graph alone, where we were before this announcement, where, prices had been kind of softening, in, the May, June time, and maybe they were starting to come back up, but, instantaneously, a doubling in price, where you can see some of these recent sales, 505 at auction, 580 fixed price. There was a couple 600s that I think we saw. I have GPA pulled up right here, just for volume of sales
I
this
think
year.
There was a 699. I think there was a 699 in there somewhere.
Here's a 653. I think you're right that there were some above $600 sales. Absolutely insane. And as soon as this announcement happened and the prices were going crazy, I got a flood of Absolute Batman stans in my DMs that had to pull up the fact that back here on the Ungraded Truth Instagram account, one member of the panel, Ryan, made his biggest loser spec of the year, or biggest loser prediction of the year, which would be Absolute Batman spec, which was even, tongue-in-cheek controversial at the time. But Ryan, what do you have to say for yourself now that, Batman is going to the moon?
All right. So people don't give me any credit for being right for 6 months of the year. This one time, it all of a sudden jumps, but we still have 6 months left. So we'll see what happens, because I mean, I do feel like this is obviously going to help boost the price of this for a while. I still think my theory on it is correct. Maybe it just pushes out a little bit further. There are so many copies of this book. It became popular very quickly. So they're very high grade. There's a very high 9.8 rate. There are more 9.8s already out there of this than there are of Ultimate Fallout 4. I mean, it's there are a lot of them, and that's going to matter. But for right now, yeah, it is definitely higher. I mean, the day before the announcement, there were 2 sales, I think, at 275. And then, like you said, it straight up doubled. And the crazy thing was the volume. They sold 40 copies on the 25th, 9.8s, alone of cover A. I mean, and that's part of what really caused that jump in price, is that on that day, you see like the price ranges were all over the place that day. And they actually like basically ran out of volume. And so you're at the point now where on eBay at any given time, there's only like 6 or 7 copies available. And when people put them up for sale for anywhere from 500 to 575, they sell like instantly. And so then you just have the ones that are left are the ones that are priced higher than that, where people are like trying to see if they can get more. Now, what I think will be interesting to see is what the census looks like about 2 months from now. I did have somebody that commented in my comment section that they said it took them 6 months to get their recent submission back, but they use CCS to press their books. I would not use CCS. I would be sending them to somebody else and then send it to CGC. And then your total turnaround time would probably be like 2 to maybe 3 months at the most. And I imagine we're going to see a big increase in census at that point, because now we've jumped up in price again. Because that was the thing, like it had dropped down to that like 250 to 275 range. And the benefit of grading had largely diminished because people were selling raws for 150. And so you could just sell it for 150, or you could risk going for the 9.8 and getting 275. So people just sell it raw. And so even though we were still seeing about 50 to 80 new 9.8s per week, we weren't getting the over 100 anymore. And I imagine about 2 months from now, we're going to start seeing like 200, maybe 300 a week. I wouldn't be surprised at that for a little while, based on these prices that just happened. But hey, we'll see. And like I said before, like it's win-win for me, because I got my competition with Manu right now for dork number 1. And right now, Absolute Batman's looking pretty good.
You're looking good. Here's what I want to add to what Ryan said. This is all fun. Like, I love this, right? I love that there's an animated series coming. I look forward to watching it. I like that the prices went crazy. But here's another thing that I really like, and correct me if I'm wrong. Dan Quintana came out and said, "Sell right now." Am I correct? He gave the warning.
It was a different guy. It was a Dave Quintana.
That wasn't the artist that said that?
No.
That's what I loved about it so much. I thought it was Dan that said it about his own book. And I thought, yes, that is what we need. We need an artist.
Read our full chat strings.
Oh, man. So who is that? At least Dan's brother or something?
No,
who is that?
Just the guy that
should have warned me. Oh, shoot. That changes everything.
Well,
delete that one. My gosh, shout out Dave Quintana. That's hilarious.
Well, never, let go of a good segue, because, in the wake of this, one of the interesting things that did happen was we had Dan Quintana on his Whatnot stream sell a piece of original art, or excuse me, a sketch cover that he did of Absolute Batman for $18,000. So on Whatnot,
yeah. I wanted to talk to you about that.
To put it in perspective, I mean, $18,000 is a commission price. Like, I think that might be above guys like Jim Lee.
It's pushing the Jim Lee price. Like, I mean, like, I think he might have been 30, but like it's getting there.
Yeah. And it's granted, it was a very high fidelity sketch cover. Probably Jim Lee, even if you get him to do a commission, he's not doing that level of detail work. But I say all that to say that I feel like not just in Dan Quintana's art, star status as an artist right now, it just goes to show like the Absolute Batman fervor is really there. And
fervor.
If I kick it to you, Rob, in terms of like your thoughts on this, like, why would Absolute Batman be the next Ultimate Fallout 4 versus why might it not be perhaps the next ASM 300? Like, you see where I'm going with this, where yes, it has a high print count, but is it going to fall by the wayside of Miles Morales, or is this just going to be like this generation's ASM 300 and a million copy print be damned? It could be a $3,000 9.8 at some point.
I think it's more like would it be Ultimate Fallout 4 that like a lot of people want to own one, but this just feels like pure FOMO taking over, and that this thing's gonna. I mean, do we think it probably peaked? Has the momentum kind of slowed at around that like high fives price point? It seems like
for now. I mean, it's only been a week and a half, so it's hard to really say for sure. But yeah, it's we're having sales anywhere between 500 and like 580 at this point.
Yeah, I would imagine that this thing's going to probably slow down at that 600 ceiling, and I wouldn't be surprised in like a month or two if we're seeing them sell like closer to around 500. That's typically what happens in these things. They'll level back up and then they pull back, but it pulls back to higher than where it was before. So I think with this, the main thing I think this has done is raise the floor on that book, where it was creeping. What was it? It was flirting with below 300 right before this one.
I mean, it had been basically at 250 and been there for a couple months, and over the last month or so, it had trickled back up to maybe like 275 to 280.
Probably because supply was starting to dry up. Everyone had sent them in; they were all starting to come back from CGC, and slowly supply starts to dry up. So it starts to slowly tick up on its own. But yeah, I think what this has done is it has given it a higher floor. And then I think what'll determine it is how good is the actual show itself. You know, if the show comes out and it sucks, or it's just like, not my absolute Batman, whatever the case might be, then it's probably going to pull back a little bit. If it comes out and it's like,
Batman.
It's like season 1 of X-Men 97, where everyone just absolutely adored it and couldn't get enough of it, then it'll probably raise the floor higher. But I don't think this is going to be like an ASM 300 situation. That doesn't mean that it can't be popular. That doesn't mean that it can't sell for a good amount of money. But I don't know that I see it surpassing like Ultimate Fallout 4.
Yeah,
I think that's the class of book that it is in.
Yeah, still only 35 cents in the chat. Shout out to him. He's got a great YouTube. He actually brought up something that I thought was really interesting. He said in his comment, it works for DC because they can lean into absolute Batman when Batman hits public domain. Public domain for Batman is around the corner within like less than 10 years, I believe it is, because Batman, is 1939? So, something soon. And yeah, it is interesting if DC is thinking to themselves, hey, this Batman is going to be open to whoever. So let's really lean into our absolute Batman version, because that's the one we still control. And maybe they're just going to ensure that this is the Batman moving forward. I mean, what do you guys think about that for Not My Batman?
I mean, it's not a bad idea or a bad thought in how they do it, but at least from what I understand, you can use so many variations. I'm definitely not a copyright lawyer, but any little tweak they do along the way seems to give them, more time on what that Batman, or I think with Mickey and that kind of stuff. It's the design, the very specific design that was used at that moment in time is now public domain, but the one that was used 5 years later when they, transitioned to something else, that one's still up, you can't use that. So that can be maybe a little tricky, but it never hurts for them to have another popular version of that character.
Yeah. Well, speaking of needing more time, one of the books that probably needs more time, as you guys hinted at, this ongoing bet that we have for Absolute Batman is Dork #1. I feel like we probably should, cross our T's and dot our I's here. But if you guys have not been in tune to where Dork prices are, actually been kind of trending back up. After the initial surge earlier in the year, they were at 263, went all the way down to 182, but a little bit on the incline, back up to 229. Last couple sales, 230. So
I think that seems like it aligned with the Dungeon Crawler Carl stuff. I feel like that almost feels like that's associated with this.
You could be right. Obviously, Brett Bean, creator of Dork, has ties and connections to Dungeon Crawler. You guys know that's something I can't talk right now. Has ties to it, and that is one of the craziest book properties there is right now. And also, coincidentally, I do think got a animated show announcement of some kind. So you do have to wonder, what may happen if Dork gets its own animated series announcement, which I feel like is got to be in the cards. But what do you guys think about?
I think Manu has a shot if this gets an animated series announcement, because I have to imagine the print run on this is way lower. So just from a supply standpoint, if this thing pops, then it has a chance to go higher just because of the supply side.
You mean to tell me there's still a chance?
There's 6 months left.
You're an influencer, Manu. You could just move this market yourself.
Listen,
it is definitely an easier one for you to move if you wanted to.
I'm trying to be good. I could be buying a couple copies just so I don't have to give you $100, spend a couple thousand, don't give you 100. Seems reasonable to me. But I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to let the market do what the market do. By the way, I'm still embarrassed about what happened with the Dave Dan thing, and I was going to redeem myself, but no one asked me, do I think that Absolute Batman is Ultimate Fallout 4 ASM 300? So forget it. I won't give my
Wait.
opinion on that. I'm just no.
I
He's
was
salty
hold on.
now.
I was
You can
bringing,
chime in whenever you want.
Oh,
Nobody
I was
needs to
trying to
tell you to.
Manipulation, Derek says. I'm going to manipulate the market.
Oh, that's good. That
I
is
like
good
that.
right there. I have to say, Manu, I was trying to set you up because I was bringing in the dork
my
price
bad.
to have you have
I
to talk
gotcha.
about it, and
Yeah.
then you get the floor now. So let me hear your thoughts on Absolute Batman as far as is it going to go the way of UF4, or can it go the way of say ASM 300 for this generation?
Well, my question about that, I kind of wanted to just dive into that conversation a little more in a dorky sense. Oh, pun intended. When you're comparing it to ASM 300, do you mean like the longevity of its desirability, or are we, because technically it can't represent the same sort of 9.8, because the thing about the ASM 300 9.8 value is it's less than 5% of the overall 30,000 graded, and that's not going to be.
Well, that's good information, because here's the thing. A lot of times, guys, as I'm drumming up these conversations, I'm kind of expressing what I've seen other people say.
I see.
And something that I've seen people say is this is this generation's ASM 300. Dragoda is McFarlane. This cover is now iconic. It's going to be homage for many decades from here on out. But what you said right there, the 9.8 rate, that is not. I have not heard that. That's a good rebuttal.
Well, that's why I think what you have to do, almost if you're trying to look at prices like that, is almost add up all the books together, all the sales they get across all grades, and then get an average from that, something like that. Because when you're talking about a modern book like Absolute Batman 1 that got hot very quick, so it didn't sit in boxes even for a year. It sat in boxes for months before people maybe started flooding it in for grading. That everything is going to be 9.8 or 9.6 for the most part. Probably 95 or 98% of the books are going to be 9.8s or 9.6s. And so everything is that. Whereas in Spider-Man or ASM 300, it's only a small percentage that's 9.8. So you're not looking at the 9.8, you're just looking at the total market for it. And I feel like if you did something like that, you could maybe make some comparisons once you get to a steady state place with the grading. But we know that roughly, and there's been some conversation about how many copies of Absolute Batman 1 cover A are out there. DC doesn't release their numbers, so we don't officially know. I've heard anywhere from 200 to 300,000 if you're including the variants and everything like that. But if you're comparing it to Ultimate Fallout 4, that's 3 to 4 times as many as Ultimate Fallout 4. If you're doing a comparison, if you're comparing it to ASM 300, I think ASM 300 would have been more, but it's an older book. How many have been lost to time? We don't really know. How many aren't really worth grading because they're raw and they're lower grade, and so people won't send them in. Whereas here, just about everything is going to be worth grading if you wanted to. And so that's the big difference with this and a 9.8. Well, you can't just compare 9.8. I feel like you have to compare the whole market of those more vintage books to just the 9.8 or 9.8 and 9.6 for Absolute Batman.
Just an aside, but relevant still. If you were to pick, because I had a conversation with a friend, there was a friend of ours, Swag, he was watching your video and he got inspired to pick his spot for the future of investing in Absolute Batman, right? And he wanted to know my thoughts on it, but I didn't have thoughts on it because I haven't looked into the various covers. I own one Absolute Batman book, and it's this awesome Catwoman cover that I really enjoy, right? I don't even own Absolute Batman issue 1. I forgot what issue that Catwoman cover is. It's just really dope, so I bought it. I was at a local comic book store, Blue Moon Comics, San Rafael, shout out. And the question is, for people that have more experience and have been following which covers exist, which ones are more scarce, some people are still going to rip the covers out of the other printings, rip the top covers off to have the cover A, which subsequently might make some of those other covers more rare, albeit we won't know how many were taken apart to make a cover A. But the question that I need to just get to is, which book would you pick if you were investing in one book to just make sure you have a hedge, and if this thing is going to last forever, you got something to sell and say you got a piece of it? What's that one book?
I'd buy cover A.
That's it?
I mean, that's that's the one that's recognizable. Nobody knows what the other ones look like.
No,
Like,
Catwoman is 13. That issue is so good looking. All right. Are there how many 9/9s and 10s are there of cover A?
only
let's-
3, and that's the wild thing. They
three
popped
9/9s
up
or 10s.
3990
That's
10s.
it?
They popped up right away early on,
Oh,
and CGC
yes.
given any since, and it's really made you question, like, are they looking for them again? You know, like there's, I would be interested to see if somebody put one up for sale, what they'd go for right now.
You know what's funny about that? That same thing happened with Dork, where Dork got a couple 9/9s right out the gate,
Right.
and then it hasn't gotten one since. And I wonder,
have an
tinfoil hat time,
objective.
guys.
I have an objective.
Tinfoil hat time.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's an element here with CGC where it's like when they get in these new books, they're just grading them like they see them? Hey, this one's a 9/9. Cool. Let's give it a 9/9. And then when it becomes a phenomenon, it becomes hot. Absolute Batman becomes hot, or like Dork, gets hot. Are they sort of like, whoa, wait a minute here, guys, like we got to like make sure that we don't just over 9/9 it. I mean, do you think that those conversations could be being had?
Yes, but I also think that it's the reason that's interesting is because I think it goes against what you hear a lot of people out there say when they're like criticizing CGC and saying like that they're giving people higher grades to get more money. It's like they would give these books 9/9s then, because then they could charge them a walkthrough rate. I mean that book when it sold early on, I think it was like December or January, the last time a 9/9 Absolute Batman 1 sold of 2025, sold for like $500. That book, if it sold right now, I bet it's like $5,000, maybe more. I bet you could hit, like, if you got that for that 9/9, and they could easily just charge a walkthrough price and be like, all right, you owe us, $150, $200, $300 instead of the normal $27.
I want a PSA 10 of Absolute Batman #1 cover A. That's going to be what I hold on to into the future.
Is there?
I was about to ask.
I don't know. I don't know.
I was about to ask if there was actually a PSA 10.
But now it's expensive to buy the 9.8s to give it a shot. But like, there's got to be the potential of a PSA 10, and I want that.
Now, Manu, yeah, you
did that
ask
come
a
out in
question.
December 2024?
Yeah.
Yes.
There are no PSA 10s.
Awesome. Swag, what were you saying?
Well, you asked the question, what book would I put my money in? Yeah, the A cover. However, I think that the ash cans are getting completely overlooked. Because
talk to us about those. What's that?
I pulled them up right here. Absolute Batman was first announced at San Diego Comic-Con in 2024. And in 2024, they gave out an ash can edition, which has the black and white of the cover A. It is the shape of the ash can. And you can see right here from Go Collect's numbers, currently only 116 universal copies that are 9/8 grade. And the most recent 30-day sale for the ash can, $500. So people are out there.
That seems like a better buy. I'm with you.
Yes.
That feels like a better buy.
So people are now spending $500 for what, this ash can most recently sold for $600 in June before the announcement. But this is something that I've talked about in my videos before, that the ash can is getting overlooked. Now, even more interesting than this ash can, though, is that this was giving out San Diego. I could be getting this wrong, but this is what I understand it to be. But it was something like this. There was a panel at San Diego Comic-Con that year, and I do believe Scott Schneider was on the panel. And at that panel, if you attended, they gave out an ash can, which was the foil version of their ash can. And it's got, this kind of look right here. And this one is even less copies out there. But the prices for this were always expensive. These were like $1,000 9/8. There was a sale just yesterday on July 4th for $2,600. And to me, this feels like this is the one you want to get. As far as like the Grail book, there's 100 universal copies.
How many 9/9s does that say?
It looks like there's five.
It's a
five
foil,
9/9s.
so that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a foil. So, one of these two is really where you want to be going. I mean, there's 316 total normal ash cans graded, and then there's 148 total graded. And there's a lot of these books that are signed because Dragotta was there. People got them signed in 2024. But either way, to answer your question, I think if you're putting money into Absolute Batman, if you're a true believer, it seems like you want to be going for one of those ones.
So what we're saying is we're challenging all the people out there. Be like, if you're a true Absolute Batman fan, go out and go $2,600 for a foil.
Swag, just enlighten me because I missed this. Did either of those ash cans come out before the comic book store had the cover A?
Oh,
Is that what?
they're all before. Yeah.
Both of those
Way
are before?
Yeah, way before.
Okay. You could have
Yeah.
told me before this episode. Damn.
I mean, but
Really?
neither
Clearly,
of them
wait.
are the first appearance though. Like neither of them are the first appearance. First appearance is that like all in DC
No.
or whatever.
Even better. Even better. They
Yeah,
came
what's
out
the first
before the
appearance
first
then?
appearance. No, they came out before the first appearance.
Can you pull
Oh,
up this
did they?
all-in
Okay, I
DC
didn't
thing?
know
I
that.
don't know anything about any of this stuff. Can I see that?
Okay,
What
okay.
is that?
I don't remember
Uh,
the exact title. It was something like that.
Manu's about to spend
Manu-
$100,000.
Yeah,
on
but
Batman
Manu
books.
is-
I
Manu is-
just
Manu
spent
is
all in.
$100,000, Neo, on.
Okay,
anyway.
okay.
Manu just casually dropping that he dropped 100K on something.
On something, it's not even. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I need
wait,
to
wait.
make it
Maybe-
all back
okay.
now.
I don't know. Hold on. Maybe I have this right. Maybe I don't have this right. But like, okay, I did a Heritage Auctions video. Shout out to Heritage, where I was covering, sales that went through the weekly, and I covered the Absolute Batman foil edition that sold. I frankly, I should have bought it because, like, where it sold was way less than the most recent sale. I'm pretty sure when I did my research, those things came out before the all-in DC preview. But Manu, this book right here was a all-in. Oh yeah, 2025. Yeah, of course it came out before.
It's not that cover. That's a free comic book day.
Are
It's
you
a
sure
cover-
this is not it?
Yeah, it has a bunch, all the different characters.
Guys, I
on the
love
cover.
this right now. This is
Oh,
fun.
is it this one right here? Is it this one?
Let me see if you click on it.
Yeah. Okay. I did do my research. This came out. This is it, Ryan. It's this one you're talking about. Hold on. This one.
Yes, it is that one.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I pulled the wrong thing. I did do my research, guys. This is the one I was looking at. All in special number 1. This came out in October of 2024. This was like more of around the New York Comic Con time, where San Diego was in July. So a few months prior to that. But yes, Manu, so this was technically the first appearance of the all-in universe that
Okay.
included Batman. So some people out there in the market try to pitch this as like, this is the one you should get. I still think the Ashcan is the one that people should be getting.
That ash
but
can
even
is
with this-
amazing. It's
the
on
price-
the cover. So that's the back cover that's got Absolute Batman on it.
But yeah, and so
Uh,
that's why I'm saying like this has never really been the book, even though it's the first appearances, and it's because that one cover has become so iconic. And that's why I do agree. I like the idea of the ash can and that foil because it still has the same look, which is what people are really looking for with that, with that book, with Absolute.
Yeah,
Batman.
but this is a good bet. This is a good. I don't know what the prices of this are, but this makes a lot of sense to own. Like if we're talking about Ultimate Fallout 4, great book and it goes through its motions or whatever. But then there's that previews thing and there's that other thing, and all of those things have value. Those have newsstands associated with them as well that are exponentially more rare and more expensive. This doesn't have that fun factor, but those ash cans are sort of like the newsstand thing, right? Lower produced, harder to get, little talked about. Most people don't know. Most people are on the cover A thing. That's what they follow. That's what they love. But it makes sense that if you're betting into the future of Absolute Batman and you just enjoy this sort of thing, like the ash cans, absolutely, but this too. This is great.
We can see, actually, look at that. Even just today, $400 9/8 sale, which probably is the highest price.
Did
paid.
someone just bin that in the last 5 minutes?
Yeah,
How quick
it
does
very
Go
much could have
Collect
been.
update?
Yeah. So I don't know. Really interesting stuff with this story. I think Manu is all of a sudden is going to be like, knowing Manu's style, he's like probably all in on this Absolute Batman trade.
I
all of a
love
sudden.
it.
After we
love
get off this tonight, he's just going to be out there trying to buy them all up or just like putting watches out.
So
That
is
ash
the
can would
foil
be
like
so fun to
the Ultimate Fallout 4 variant that like that's the one, the Drevich or whatever it is? Like,
Yeah, that might be the one. It's important to point out, though, again, just to put a point of emphasis, I already said it, but I think that there are quite a few signed of those copies in 9/8. I mean, it doesn't change the total graded that we showed, but like, don't just think that the 9/8 is like the top of the top of the top. I mean, I think
Oh,
that
man.
maybe the foil ones are the signed ones are the top.
I know why I was thinking of that foil and a signed copy. I remember seeing it was either a Facebook post or a Reddit post months ago, and that person is probably just dying now, where their shipment that they were supposed to get, I think, back from CGC just disappeared in the mail. And the person showed like the books that were in it, and one of them was that foil book signed by Dragotta. And it was, I think, a 9/8. And he's probably just like, oh my God, I just lost like $3,000 or something like that. And he probably at best got a couple $100 or something, maybe, maybe 500 or 600 or whatever from from the insurance side of it.
Yeah.
Oh man, sucks.
That's a bummer. Well, guys, I mean, there's the Absolute Batman report. I mean, still 6 months to go in the year. We'll have to check in to see if how this bet actually shakes out. But yeah, very interesting stuff. Where the prices are, and if you're somebody that's interested in those ash cans, you may need to tune in to all types of buying platforms, which leads us to the next segment, which we have to talk about the sponsor of today's stream, which is, of course, Elite Comics 11. Guys, Elite Comics 11 is the #1 community-powered comics and collectibles consignment page on social media. We here on the Ungraded Truth podcast are proud to be sponsored with Elite on today's show. If you guys are interested in buying or selling collectibles, Elite is the most trusted. They do it fast and securely. They have their incredible Instagram account where they're always doing live sales. I think it's always kind of funny because as we do, these talking about Elite, like every time I pull it up now, they in fact are live right now. So, make sure that, you head on over to their Instagram account. I'm actually really happy that, as we gave them a shout out on our last show, their follower account was below 49,000. Now they're at 49.1. So nice. I don't know if we had anything to do with that, but I would like to take credit for it. But Manu, I know that you sent us a few, images and stuff. Like, do you want to kind of talk a little bit about Elite and the recent sale that they did?
Yeah, I did want to talk about that. And before we jump into that, just piggybacking off of what you said, I did also want to shout out our friend Eddie, because after the first episode, I think it was just the next day, Eddie messaged and said the advertising is already working because he went on to Elite, followed the page, browsed the page, and picked up a 9.6 giant size X-Men. So and that's what he said. He said, I'm the proud new owner of this 9.6 giant size X-Men. So I think that's beautiful. And guys, just, sincerely, if any of you guys, hear about Elite through this and go over there and make a purchase or follow, just drop them a line and let them know that you heard it from us. That goes a long way for us and for Elite. And I love that. So that was dope. Shout out, Eddie. So what Elite does from time to time is they have a platinum night. And I'm not sure the frequency of it, but it's multiple times a year. And they announce it on their Instagram page. So follow the page and see that. And I wanted to, kind of get some highlights of what's sold during this platinum night. And it's not like their typical live selling where a seller might get hours or an entire day. The sellers come in and they hit it quick. They bring their most exclusive stuff and it just goes on for one night. So you have a shot at the live sort of experience of negotiating and making offers on super rare things. And some of the things that sold, I'm like unfamiliar with, but some of the things I'm very familiar with. But for instance, and Ryan might know a thing about this because there's a bunch of stuff that's old. Like this book's from 1942, a Captain America Comics number 17 sold. Right, that's one of the highlights. Those are the kind of things that are available. There was a
I mean, one of the big ones I saw that they sold that is like a super rare book, and I brought mine down here just to kind of just to show that I know what I'm talking about with this book. Yeah, they had a dynamic number 8, which is this book right here. They had a restored copy that they sold.
Oh yes,
and yeah,
the
that
6.5
one right there.
restored. Yeah,
that book, like this is one of the reasons why, and I mentioned in the last one too. This is why you need to, like, if you're looking for rare stuff. Like this is a book that total copies on census, including restored and unrestored, there's only 33. Like super rare book. Damn. And so like if you're looking for that kind of stuff, you need to give yourself as many options as possible to find them. And so, like I follow Elite and all that as well, just because I've picked up some of the really rare books that I've owned over the years through their platform. And that's just one example of one where like you never know where some of this stuff might pop up. And Elite, especially these like platinum nights when they have some really big stuff, like you can find some really cool rare stuff like that.
And then no, that's awesome. And I'm glad that you have that book. That book's dope. That's out of my wheelhouse, but I like learning about it. One of the things that I saw, and I was in the stream when this happened, is there's a gentleman that comes on and he always brings vintage posters, rare posters, movie posters, just all kinds of really cool pop culture stuff. And he sells, one of a kind items, so on and so forth. But he brought out a Donruss set, a 1966 Marvel Donruss set. And I love that set. And this was a nice condition set. And not everyone's aware of how much these things are always selling for. So the opportunity to get a great deal and everyone's happy. The seller put his price on it and the buyer even negotiated and grabbed it. but literally grabbed this set, this complete set, for less than half of what I just sold 3 of these sets for. Meaning each of the sets I sold was almost twice the price of this, and one was well over twice the price. And so that's just a great opportunity. And it wasn't because it didn't move, it's because the seller had a price on it that he was fine with, and someone made an offer, and the seller accepted the offer. Like, that guy who bought that can go sell it for double the price right now. And so I thought that was amazing. So a lot of fun stuff goes up for Platinum Night, and I hope you guys check it out. But yeah, shout out to Elite, shout out to a successful Platinum Night, and there's a bunch of dope books on the page right now just to go look at. And you could make offers and all that stuff too. You could just buy them outright, or you can make an offer. What's that Donald Duck with the gun where he's about to shoot the thing off of his beak? What is that? That looks amazing. I don't know what that is.
Kind of a classic.
It's a Walt Disney's Comics and Stories. Yeah,
that's dope.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you guys don't know, of course,
gun safety.
Elite Comics11, amazing Instagram account. Definitely go give them a follow. They're posting books every single day, all kinds of, stuff from, expensive, rare things like the dynamic comics that Ryan was talking about to even, some, affordable keys, like even just like this Silver Surfer #3 right here, 5.5, 275. Sounds like, that book is way undervalued. My favorite villain book that there is, and I cannot believe the prices on it. But Rob, let me kind of pull you in a little bit. These guys are talking some books. Let me kind of see. I'm going to find
There's actually one I want on here, but I don't want to talk about.
No, just buy it right now. Then write a claim on it right now.
I just pulled up the page and was scrolling, and I'm like, oh, I've actually been looking for that.
That's hilarious.
Actually, this is an interesting one. Let's have a little debate right here, because we got an ASM 252. In a newsstand for $6.49, and then the Marvel Secret Wars 8 in a newsstand, a 9.6 Canadian price variant. Ooh. But there's always been kind of a big debate here, where it's like, which one's the best black suit, comic to own.
252, bro.
Yeah,
I love 252.
I own both.
I think it's so much better. But
give me the 252.
A lot of people disagree, though. A lot of people love the like jazz hand Spider-Man. But they're both good. I like the throwback to AF-15 though.
It's an AF-15 homage. It's 250. It literally came out before Secret Wars 8. It's not like it's tied in the running. Secret Wars 8 just gets the credit for being like the origin story, but it's told after the release of 252. Is that another thing I'm saying during this episode that's completely wrong? I don't think so. I think that I'm actually
no. It is confirmed 252 did come out before, but it had been a big debate in the community for some time.
252 came out way before.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
The question was always about Marvel Team Up 141
and that other
and the Spectacular Spider-Man 90. That's where kind of the question always was.
Correct.
But,
yeah.
Hot take: the best black suit cover is Web of Spider-Man.
#1, Charles Vess. Yeah. Love that book.
You're just talking cover.
Yeah.
Dude, that is actually one of the best covers for sure. And maybe Elite will have it posted next. But guys, definitely go give Elite Comics11 a follow. They once again are the largest, most trusted community-powered comic and collectibles consignment page on social media. Definitely, if you go over there, if you find some good stuff, even if you're not ready to buy anything or consign anything, they're just a good follow, like keeping up on the market, 100%. Seeing what's out there. So go give them a follow. Shout out to them for sponsoring the show tonight. We definitely appreciate Ali and the team over there for being a fan of the Ungraded Truth, as we are a fan of his page.
Absolutely. And Swag, let me just mention, that was beautiful, but I think it's worth mentioning. There's 2 books that we talked about on the last episode.
I feel like I stuck that double axle landing right there. You know what I mean? I was feeling
he was bolts. He was bolts on that.
I'm sorry, but I want to give you a little bit more credit, because there's 2 books that you continue to highlight, and we talked about them, and they both sold. That Iron Man with the quotes, right? We talked about it. That got claimed. Okay, big nice. Book. And that Lethal Protector Black Error also got claimed. So both of those books we talked about, I'm just saying it's worth mentioning that they were available and now they are not. That doesn't mean that someone saw the episode and went, but they're gone.
They totally saw the episode and went over.
No, they definitely saw the episode.
We talked about both of those books, but the more poignant point there is the good stuff shows up and it gets gone. Both of those are gone now.
True. Listen. the ungraded truthers. Okay, the army that we got. You know, we come to play. You know, we put that money on the table. We say claim. That's
it.
that's
Neo,
the
go
community
claim
that
that
we
book.
have.
What are you doing,
That's the
Neo? Go
community
get
we
it.
have. You know,
I
That's
do
right.
want to see him claim it during the show. That
Would you
be
do
fun.
it, Neo?
Nah,
Would
they
you
gotta
do it?
put an offer in on this one.
All right, well,
Talk
shoot
post
the
show.
offer. Shoot
I'll
the
tell
offer.
you guys what it is
Oh,
post show.
all right.
But
cool,
anyway,
cool.
that was fun, Swag. Thank you for that. That was great. Yes, guys, follow Elite, please. We mean it. We're not just saying that. It's a good place to follow, and let them know we said hi.
All right. Well, we got to go over to the next topic. Unfortunately, Rob, you're going to have to lock in for this one because this is in your wheelhouse here. But we did a show a couple weeks ago talking about PSA's backlog. Well, we do have some updates on that from show host himself, Rob. Made this post right here, the PSA backlog tracker. Can you kind of wax poetic a little bit on this one and kind of give us the rundown and update of what's going on with PSA these days?
Well, them along with pretty much every other grading company had a record-setting month this month in regards to stuff graded. But they shaved 2 million off already. They graded 2.5 million cards in June, which is a new all-time record for them. And
Jesus,
yeah, now it's down to 12 million. The target goal is 5 million before they reopen. So assuming that they continue to expand capacity as the year goes on, we'll probably see some value tiers open up in early to mid fall, like October-ish maybe. I don't think it's going to be wide open. My guess is they do some sort of tiered approach where the more expensive stuff comes online first, and I'm sure it'll be throttled. Otherwise, they'll end up right back in the same situation they're in right now. But yeah, pretty good for the first big update out of them. And then they're doing updates every 2 months or every 2 weeks rather, going forward. There's actually a lot of grading news this week. A lot of places are the National, which is the sports card version of New York and San Diego Comic-Con, is a few weeks away. And they announced their on-site pricing for grading, which caused a lot of stir because it is pretty expensive, but it's probably going to sell out. The minimum price is $230 to get a card graded in about 3 days. That news also came out this week, but yeah.
So was this the plan that they were going to be able to knock out? You said 2 million cards in a month?
Yeah, this backlog started at 14 million when they initially shut down about a month ago. This is the first update that they've done about, I think it's like 4 or 5 weeks in, and they already cut off 2 million. So nice. Yeah, I mean, there was no plan heading out. I don't think that they knew exactly how much, because remember, there's still people submitting at higher value levels that need to get done quicker than the stuff sitting in the backlog, like the people paying for express services and stuff. So I don't think that they were 100% sure how much demand that those services were going to get once they shut down and how much that would slow them down. So I don't really know if this was like better than, they didn't say, they just posted the number. We didn't get much in the way of context if this was like, oh, this is way better than we thought that it was going to be, or oh shit, this is way slower. The vibe seems to be like this is a little more aggressive than they thought that it was going to go. So we'll see what happens. Now they're going to give us updates every 2 weeks, so we'll start to kind of have a better feel for how much is getting lopped off as they do these updates.
But I mean, even at a month, I mean, that's still 3.5 to 4 months of, no submissions. Like if it's 2 million per month that you're able to eat into it, they've got 7 million to go. So, I mean, that's still a lot.
Yeah. So you're probably going to like 3.5 months ish, which would put you September, October. I mean, we're really not that far away from the fall when you really think about it. And the unknown is how much do they expand capacity? I mean, it wasn't that long ago that they were only grading 2 million cards per month, and now they're grading 2.5 million cards per month. Like if you pulled up the gem rate and looked at the month by month, like they were in the low 2 millions, I think, just like a couple of months ago, and now all of a sudden they're already at 2.5. My guess is by the time this wraps up, they're probably going to be close to 3 million cards per month that they're outputting, or at least capable of outputting.
What's the kind of sentiment check after, this kind of announcement? Is this like a PSA has been tinfoil hatting, this, they did this to increase the prices in this like 4D chess level thing? Or are people like, yay, PSA is the best, they're fast turnarounds and we love you guys again?
I mean, anytime you're talking about PSA, there's always a segment of people that are like F them and get the pitchforks and torch pretty quick. And yeah, they'll go down every rabbit hole humanly possible about like this was intentional. They don't want to bring value tier back. This was all just a big scheme to raise prices. The national pricing is very divisive. Some people are like, this is, oh my God, this is the stupidest thing ever. What the hell are they doing? Nobody can afford this. And then I'm kind of in the camp, which I guess has been a hot take, that they probably priced it too cheap at $229 per card. So
yeah,
that's
right here, right?
Yeah. So
But-
it's PSA. It's going to be divisive no matter what. They're going to have their hardcore truthers that no matter what they do, people are like all in. And then there's going to be the people that are the exact opposite that are like, F those guys, pretty much no matter. They could like give every kitten and puppy a home in the country and people would still hate them. It wouldn't matter. There's just like that segment. And then there's folks in the middle that are just kind of like caught in between of like, man, I just want to grade some cards at a reasonable price. Can you guys figure your shit out?
Well, that's what I think is kind of funny, where people will, if people are saying things like, oh, it's a scheme to raise prices, like they can raise prices if they want. There's nothing that's like holding them back from being able to be like, oh, this is the new price. Like they're a private company. They can do whatever they want. This is not a required public service that they're like keeping from people. It's not food or water or anything like that. It's like, I mean, they'll charge what the market bears. You know, they're going to make as much money as they can. And I'm sure they do still want to keep things like value tier, because that's how you keep having that large volume is their moat. You know, we've talked about that with CGC and comics, like with PSA and cards, like that is their moat. That is the thing that other companies just can't get past. It's not that they have some special slab or better looking label, you know, like everybody tries to claim with different things. It's the volume. You know, the volume is the moat.
Yeah. Is this, to put it in perspective, last year, is this pricing 10% higher, the same price compared to like on-site grading, or did they bring on-site grading back?
I think last year on-site, the cheapest tier was 150 per card. Don't 100% quote me on that, but I am pretty sure that is accurate.
Okay.
So for context though, and this is where I say that it's too cheap. Right now, express service is $150 a card with the same declared value to send in, to mail it in. And it is 4 to 6 week turnaround time. So that's $150. So you factor in, it's going to cost you what, at least like $8 to $10 to ship it, because shipping's like ridiculously expensive now. And that's just on the way there. And then it's also PSA shipping, return shipping is expensive. Like we talked about earlier with CGC return shipping pre-show. Like you're probably looking at like $30 to $50 to ship back one card at a $2,500 value, most likely. So all of a sudden, you're basically at $200 to mail a card off to grade it express with shipping to and fro. And now you're talking about, for an extra $30, you just get to have it back in 3 days while you're at the largest card show in the world, that you could instantly walk it around, sell it, trade it, flip it, do whatever you want to do with it.
To that point, and you could take this ball and run with it. Like the play seems that you would want to be kind of figuring out like, okay, like, well, what is the World Cup going to shape out to be? And is Lionel Messi
over by the time the national rolls around?
But if it's like, let's say Messi repeats, Argentina repeats, like, you're talking about like, okay, do I have a card? Can I get it slabbed, like to your point, like instantaneously, and still capitalize on the post-week FOMO of that World Cup,
I mean, there's a ton of different angles there, both in sports and TCG. A lot of people will do, like, a lot of people are scouting cards already to take and do this, or like buy BGS. Like they'll look to see what the margin is on a BGS 9.5 or like a CGC 10 or an SGC 10 and a PSA 10. And they'll look to gobble those up and then, risk it for the submit for crossover and try to get the PSA 10 and like arbitrage that while they're on the show floor. Like that absolutely happens as well. So there's a ton of different angles that people go into with the on-site grading when it's available. And then the higher tiers, it obviously gets super expensive, but you're paying for, they have their declared value, their price bands that they charge depending on how much the card's worth, because they want their taste.
Got it. Do you guys have thoughts on the PSA turnaround times or anything else on this one?
No, I don't have anything else to add here.
What you can say?
Just to address a comment in chat. Comics are unaffected by this. This is just cards.
Yep.
Go PSA. That's all I got.
Oh, that's all you got. Okay.
Yeah.
All
The
right.
rare single shell.
The rare single, nostalgic for the single shill. Bring the single shill back. Physical media.
That's the single shell, man. Well, interesting. We'll definitely keep our eye on the PSA tracker as things open up, which I certainly do hope that they open up because I got some cards that I need to send. And I definitely got disillusioned with sending them in, especially since I have a bunch of Marvel superheroes cards and stuff like that I would like to eventually get graded, which we're going to touch on later on in the show. But we got to go.
Michelle in chat too. Michelle lurking.
Yeah, Michelle.
Big shout out to Michelle. A great friend of the channel, and great comic book specialist over at PSA.
Yeah, we actually have a few friends from PSA in the chat. Shout out to all you guys. Thank you for being here.
Shout out to you guys. All right. Well, coming up, we have to talk about some big comics that are going up for auction this coming week. It's going to be the big tale of where we are in the high-end state of things, but Heritage is setting up to have its next massive platinum auction just 3 days away. They're going to be bringing such books as Action Comics #1 in a CGC 4.5, currently sitting at $1.1 million, which this sale could tell us a lot, where we might be in the kind of like high end market type of things. A lot of big major books that are going to be in there, including a very interesting PSA book right here, which is a 9/8 Batman 1 that I think we're going to have to talk about. But before we talk about some of the books and preview some of the ones coming up, because we're sort of in the big book conversation, I think I want to start here with this one at a different auction house. Comic Connect just recently announced that they have a Fantastic Four 48 in a CGC 9.9. First appearance of Silver Surfer and Galactus cameo coming to market 50 days from now. This is the first 9.9 that exists for this particular Silver Age key. Of course, another big, milestone 9.9 book that hit the market on Comic Connect 2 years ago was the Giant Size X-Men 1 in this 9.9, where we had many conversations about this, Ryan, where it ultimately ended up selling for $170,000. But let's kind of start here before we kind of go into the broader high-end comic market here. You made a video about this one, on your channel. What do you think about FF48 9.9 hitting the market here?
I mean, it's got a 9.9 in the corner, so it's a 9.9. It's gonna go. It's gonna go for a 9.9 price.
The number is the number.
Exactly. I talked about in the video. There's some things that I think are, that's what we do. We nitpick the stuff that they give the 9.9s, and I imagine CGC expects that's going to happen because these things are going to be flashpoints. They're just, people see them, they're gonna look close, and they're gonna nitpick. And do I think it deserves a 9.9? I don't. But it's going to go for, my guess is somewhere around 225 to 250,000. I hope it goes for more. I love seeing big numbers. It doesn't, I always talk about this stuff it's kind of tongue in cheek. I don't really care that much, but I think it's interesting to talk about. It's that the extremes of grading, and it's just kind of fun to see this stuff. It's not the area that I'm ever really playing in. I don't like owning books. We've talked about this a number of times. I don't like owning books like this, where it's really high grade, high dollar, where if something happens in shipping or just shifting in the case and it takes a little damage, and then it's the Schrodinger's 9.9, is it a 9.9 or what is it now? And so that stuff always concerns me with really high dollar, high grade books. But yeah, we're all going to watch this. It'll be really interesting to see what it goes for. There are a lot of high grade copies of Fantastic Four 48 because there was that warehouse find a number of years ago. I had somebody in my comment section say that apparently a lot of those warehouse copies, or maybe all of them, have the miswrap that this one has. So it's probably from that set of books, but I can't say that's for sure.
How recently was this graded? Do we know?
It was graded in April.
Oh, okay. So this is a pretty new cert.
Yeah.
Did you do
so
the
this is
magical look in front, look behind to see if
There's
there
no
was
other, yeah, there's no other book in this one. It's number one. It's the only book that was in that submission.
Did you by chance find a 9.8 that was this, is there any evidence that this was a 9.8 prior? Like, is there some way to, did you do some browsing about that?
I can't remember if I did. I might have looked a little bit, but not much.
Okay.
I don't think I looked into that very much on if this was like a resub of a 9.8. I did kind of joke. I always tease these stickers, like the CVA sticker that they have at Comic Link and the QES sticker that they use at Comic Connect, where it's like, looks exceptional for the grade, and it's like it's the only book. Like,
I was gonna say, isn't that like a no shit Sherlock? There's only one 9.9.
Exactly.
It got slapped on the giant size X-Men 1 right when it got to Comic Connect 2, and I just kind of laughed about that. And this one clearly the same thing. But
there's a version of that in sports cards. It's like the most cheesy ass thing ever. It's like
throw whatever you can at it, get the sale. What's the green sticker on the back? Shout out Vince. What's the green sticker on the back?
I don't think that's
that could, maybe that's just how Comic Connect maybe marks a certain lot or something like that. I would assume.
Just a sticker you're gonna have to try to get off that case.
Are those silver stickers a pain in the ass to peel off, or are they like?
Oh, you don't want to take that off because, like, I mean, theoretically, someone paid to have that on there. You know, like the CVA stickers, you have to pay like a percentage of value to get that sticker put on your book. And so I'm assuming QES is the same.
Let's have the interesting conversation. And I mean, we've had it before, but look, yeah, it's a 9.9. Fantastic, right? Great for maybe there's a private owner of this book and it's just consigned to Comic Connect. Is there a reel on Instagram of Vince holding this book, talking about this book yet? Has anything like that?
I don't think this has been talked about yet.
Okay.
So
that's coming,
somebody else sent it to me, and someone else sent me like notice of this on Instagram. They're like, hey, like, did you know a 9.9 of FF48's up on Comic Connect? And then I went and just did a Google search for that because I didn't know which auction it was in, and it just popped up and I found it. So that's kind of where I went from with it.
I mean, we are early on this book. I mean, you know, 49 days away. It's not typical.
And that's like 49 days to the start of the auction.
You can't even bid yet.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
So it's really like 3 weeks after that or whatever it is.
Well, you know, I must think that, you know, you have a marquee item like this, and then, you know, maybe Comic Connect is thinking like, well, shoot, you know, we got to sell this. We got to build an entire auction around this thing now. So like they're sort of thinking, you know, how do we get a bunch of high value books to surround this thing? But sorry, Manu, go ahead.
No, I got nothing. Like, I'm just thinking here, when you have a 50-day lead and then the auction begins, and the auction's presumably 2 to 3 weeks or something of that sort, right? I mean, you got a bunch of days that this thing is gonna get some publicity, be talked about. Do you think there's ever any concern from like Vince's perspective? I shouldn't even say Vince directly. I don't know if this is Vince's book. I have no idea how this thing became a 9.9 or got into the hands of Comic Connect. Like, I'll wait for Vince to tell that story if he does. Like he did. You know, he articulated a lot of times with the Giant Size X-Men that that book was a 9.8 that he had. It was the Giant Size X-Men, right? I think so. It was a book that was a 9.8 that he thought had a chance at a 9.9, and he wanted it to be revisited in that way. Something along those lines. Like he was leaving comments in the comment section about that. I didn't, you know, so he might talk about this in that way as well. But is there ever any concern that in that 75 days, someone might be incentivized to create another one? Or do you think there's like a guarantee, like CGC, you guys better not put another 9.9 out before this auction ends? Like, is that how the game is played? And listen, I'm not naive to the fact that, you know, there are conversations that happen. I'm just having fun with it. Do you think that's a conversation that happens when you let the cat out of the bag 50 days prior to the auction starting?
Yeah, let's go full tinfoil zone for a second.
Neo,
guys.
grab the hat.
Get your hats out for a second.
I need to make a new. I threw mine out. I need to make a new tinfoil hat.
My hat's way up there. I don't want to go get it.
That's fine.
Okay,
it's fine.
That's fine.
He's not wearing any pants. We know he's not wearing any pants.
We glossed over what Ryan said, where he was like, you know, Rob asked the question, hey, did you do the little trick where you looked at the cert number? Ryan's like, oh no, this was the only one in the order. It's like, okay, so let's think about that for a second.
Let's think about that.
Scenario number one, I'm just a guy. I've had FF48 in my short box for many years. And I was like, you know what? today's the day I'm going to send it in, but I'm just going to send this one in. And hey, I got a 9.9. Awesome.
Awesome.
Well,
Could it happen like that? Sure.
That's generally
Or-
the issue, though, right? Like that's the
Could.
same thing. I'm pretty sure. I think maybe was it your interview with Matt about the Giant Size X-Men one? I think you maybe talked about that with him, where they said like they were talking about that book and like it was shown to them and they're like, this is an exceptional copy. And they're like, oh yeah, this is an exceptional copy. Well, and that's the type of thing where it happens, but it also really bothers me because, but it's the thing, it's like, we can't do anything about it. Like it's not going to change. It's the way it is, but it really bothers me because it means, that book, when it went in to get graded, was not anonymous. That was a known book when it was graded. And I would not be shocked if this was a known book when it was graded that someone brought up and said, hey, whether it's Matt Nelson or whoever else, take a look at this book. Do you think this is a really nice book? And he's like, yeah, this could be a really nice book. This might be a 9.9. And then they go like, here you go. Can you grade it? And then it gets through the process, knowing what book that is throughout the process. And that's the thing that really, I know, bugs a lot of people, and it should bug a lot of people, but it's not going to change. It's like, we can rage about it, whatever, but it's just the way it is.
Certain people have certain advantages, certain relationships, certain positions. That's the way of the world.
Yeah. And I'm getting soft, over the years, as far as like my criticisms of the stuff. But yeah, like I think it's more likely, like you guys already said, like it's not that this was just one blind submission. It was like someone who had maybe a 9.8 or maybe maybe they did have a raw, but they really did think that it was a 9.9. But it certainly seems like there had to have been some salesmanship or conversation to CGC of like, I want you to really look at this book, not just grade it. You need to really look at it because I think this is the greatest copy I've ever seen in the history of copies. And I've been a Fantastic Four 48 fan and dealer for 50 years, or whatever. And this is the best copy I've ever come across,
And that's what I think the argument was. That's what the argument was with the Giant Size X-Men 1. They were like, this was an exceptional copy, but that's the whole thing. It's like, I think a lot of us would like it to be that it doesn't matter if it's the best copy that they've ever seen, if it still has flaws that negate it from being a 9.9. And like that book, and I've pointed this out a lot of times, like I know CGC has their grading guide, but they don't follow the grading guide. That book has a very clear miswrap. Like you can see it on the back. And a miswrap, according to CGC's grading guide, says you cannot get a 9.9 or a 10, and it got a 9.9. We know there are tons of 9.9s and 10s out there that have miswraps. I don't know why they put that in their grading guide. That's always been I'm just like, why would you write something into your grading guide that goes against all the stuff you've done in the past and are still doing in the future? It's like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But, like it is what it is. And I know people, like, we'll have people in the comments. I had people in the comments in my video like, I'd never pay for that with a miswrap, but someone's going to. Someone's going to pay, 200 plus grand and maybe more than that for that book.
Can you walk us through that price real quick? Just, so FF48, currently last sale was 44,000, let's call it. The Giant Size X-Men ones that went for, I guess it's hard to say because this was in 2024.
Well, yeah. So if you look in 2024, the Giant Size X-Men 1 9.8 was going about 35 grand, and it sold for in June, roughly in June, and it sold for 170, which is about a 5x multiple. That's why I gave it about a 5x multiple. That book's going for around 45 right now, and that gets you to 225. And I wouldn't be surprised if it goes a little higher than that. Now, granted, like the Giant Size X-Men 1, I think a lot of us, myself included, thought it was going to go for more. 170 felt low.
At the time, we did think that it would go for more. Yes.
This is definitely going to be very interesting just to see what the 9.9 buyer in the market, shooting for this kind of a book, who comes out for it, what does it sell for? And I also want to say, like, I'm not mad that this is the case. Like, I'm not, like I said earlier, like, we're not naive to the fact that, there are imbalances in things. It is what it is. I think the strength is in just being completely aware of it. and not just about like accepting it like this defeat, no, just being aware that of course there's like this thing, relationships and situations, whatever, right? It's just how it goes. Some people are always at the front of the line, and some people are going to be able to speak to certain individuals directly and have some influence there, and they put themselves in that position, with what they've done over the decades, over the years, and it's not to say that someone else can't, but most people won't and don't, right? Because there's only a few people at the top like that. And it keeps things interesting. It allows us to have these conversations. Is it right? Is it wrong? I have my opinions about it, but it is what it is. Like, shout out to CGC, shout out to Vince, shout out to Comic Connect. Someone wants to spend their money on the book, fantastic. What I would like to see is a bunch of people start looking over 9/8 with a fine-tooth comb and really and making an argument, right? Like put some books out there and be like, well, shit, this looks way better than that, and I dare someone to argue against it. Buy that book, bring it to Matt Nelson, and make the argument. Like, play the game, because there is a game. And
I think that's the important thing here is like, and that's what it is. Like, I'd say 3 to 4 years ago, me would be angry about this. Me now, I don't really care. It's like you start to like, you learn what the stuff is, and if you let yourself get angry about it, you're gonna be angry all the time. And I don't have the time for that. I don't want to be angry all the time. I just want to enjoy doing stuff in this hobby. But knowing how everything works, like you said, is important, because if you have a book that's exceptional, bring it to them, send them pictures, reach out to someone there, be like, I think this, like, I saw that 9.9 you graded of this book. I think mine is as good or better than this. Explain why. Because I had people in my comment section going like, oh, my 9.4 is better. My 9.6 is better. If it is, prove it, reach out to them. But if yours has a big ass spine tick on it, it's not better, because that one doesn't have any big ass spine ticks. It does have things that you could say maybe make it so that it shouldn't be a 9.9, but it is an exceptional copy. That book is a 9.8. I don't have any doubt on that. I just question if it is that step up to the 9.9. It is an exceptional book.
Well, beyond just that, just to wrap up our conversations around the high end, bringing it back to Heritage Auctions here, which, has some interesting books coming up for sale. I don't know, Ryan, if you spent much time thinking about this Action 1, but just to me, as far as where it sits, where it might end up, I think a 3.0 sold for 1.5. And I just wonder where the high end market is at right now. And this is going to tell us, I think, a lot.
The tough part with Action 1 right now is it has been getting dumped on the market. Like from the perspective of a relatively rare golden age book, it is getting dumped on the market right now. And it's because you had a couple really big sales over the last couple of years. And it's like, it used to be, I would maybe see an Action 1 like once every, maybe 2 sales a year or something. Yeah. I feel like I'm seeing them almost every major auction right now, whether it's restored or unrestored. Like, we just had the Rocket copy sell on Comic Connect, and it actually, I feel like it was not a good sale. It was like 2.76. And the last sale was like 3.2 or something along those lines for that exact same book.
Or the same copy, yeah.
And given what we've seen with other Action 1s on how well they've done, there's no way the person that sold that book was happy with that sale. Like, there's no way. Yeah. And so that may tell you that we're now getting to a point where maybe there's just a few too many that are popping on the market. And who knows, maybe that was just one lower sale and someone got a great, personally, I think someone got a great deal. I think if you had $3 million to blow on an Action 1, that was an incredible book to buy. But does that known sale now that's out there, how does that impact this 4.5? And so, it's not going to go for more than that 2.76. Like, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And then, we'll, I'm sure, do recaps and stuff, or if there's any interesting stories that come out of this one. But one of the other interesting ones was, this Batman 1 in a 9.8. Well, granted, it's restored and it's got tons of stuff going on. But I
think that's a pretty notorious book. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Do you know about this one?
I think it's one of the books that CGC wouldn't grade, and then CBCS graded it, and then it was a 9.6 at CBCS. And then it got crossed over to PSA and got a 9.8.
So-
I don't know
so
if more work was done on it or what.
What
but-
you're saying is it's that family that does exceptional restorations that CGC couldn't figure out. Then Matt Nelson, I love you, brother. I love you. And then Matt Nelson got into a little situation there, and then there was the $10 million
was a
lawsuit,
big
the
lawsuit.
defamation,
Yes,
the
there was a big
defamation case.
lawsuit. Yep.
They're responsible for the restoration on this book, is what you're saying?
I believe it's that book.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very interesting story. If you guys don't know, in the chat, there was a group of comic book restorers whose work was so good that CGC had a hard time examining what they were actually doing, and some of the stuff was getting through CGC, and CGC eventually decided that we are just not going to grade any books that these people work on, and then those people ended up suing CGC because obviously it affected their business, and they ended up winning that lawsuit. So there's a lot of these books that were at CBCS that were restored copies done by this company, and they could never go to CGC, and it looks like some of them are now getting cross-graded to PSA. And yeah, a very interesting story. And so I think that seeing what this one sells for could be a good one to follow.
Yeah, for sure.
Has there been any restored CGC 9.8 sales of that book to compare it to?
That 9.8 sold somewhere.
Ooh, if we could dig that up, that'd be really fun to see.
I swear that sold somewhere recently.
As a PSA 9.8?
As a PSA 9.8.
Oh, shit.
Really?
I feel like I talked about it in a video. Like it sold for maybe it was a different one. I don't know, but
Are you maybe thinking about the AF-15, the 9.6 AF-15 PSA?
I don't think so. It was. I'm pretty sure it was a Batman 1 because I think I remember talking about it and thinking like it was going to go for something like 70 or 80,000, and it went right around there, I think. But I'd have to check. If it did, I've got some older video that I feel like it wasn't that long ago, maybe a couple months, 2 or 3 months. But
I don't ever look at restored stuff. How much does, depending on what the restoration was, swing the price?
In a situation
like, is there certain restorations that are like, oh no,
well,
no part of that, versus some that are like, okay, it's restored, but like,
Ryan,
whatever,
I want you to run with this. Ryan, you're the guy for this. Can I say one thing before you go in? Because I know you're going to go in. This was such a fun thing to think about because the AF-15, that was a 9.6 AF-15 with all the restoration. It was just a beautiful book. A 9.6, the blue label that sold during the pandemic, which is said to have been purchased by M&M, and I hope that's true because that's cool. 3.16 million is what that book went for. And then when the restored 9.6, now this is not just a little bit of color touch, this is just like a complete, redoing of the book essentially, whatever. But it went for like 70,000, 60 or 70,000 versus the 3.16 million. Now that is this crazy example we're giving of one of the most expensive AF-15s that you can possibly buy, and what can a fully restored version do? But I mean, it was just a fraction of a fraction. In the lower price stuff, there's, and this is what Ryan will shed a lot more light on, but like sometimes a restored book is like 50% of the full value. But in these higher dollar things, it's not even anything like that, depending on the level. And this is one of those books that's restored to the extent of that AF-15.
And I'm not so much talking about like the difference of price. I'm talking about like, do different types of restoration hurt the price more than
absolutely
others?
Yeah, like there's certain things people don't like to see, and like some of the big ones are like trimming will hurt things more than other things. There's also the types of restoration that at least when you read the description, that it appears you can get back to a blue label are valued much more than one where you just can't get back. So if you've got something where it's like interior pages lightened, or cover clean, which means it's like chemical cleaning, or things like that, where it is never getting back to a blue label, those will hurt the value more than something where it's small amount of color touch, or even a moderate amount of color touch where something could get back there, or tear seals along spine where somebody could remove that tear seal along the spine. Also, depending on if it's amateur versus professional. Whereas like professional, in theory, you're supposed to be able to remove those things without damaging the book, outside of certain types of things that can be done. Like you obviously can't remove page lightening, but like professional color touch is you can remove without doing any additional damage to the book. Whereas amateur color touch, you may have to cut chunks out of the book to get rid of it. And so there's definitely different types of restoration that make a big difference. Because if you follow like certain pressers and cleaners and restorers and that kind of thing on Instagram, like Phantom Restoration. Like that person, like he shows often, I think it's he shows often that, you know, he'll show the book beforehand and the book after and how close of a grade. Like I've seen books where they've gone up in grade after restoration was removed, if it was small enough, and then they could also do some pressing and that kind of thing to make it better. So there are absolutely instances where that restoration won't hurt the value all that much. But if it's in a slab, you are taking a gamble, because like there's one that I've talked about a few times. There's a PEP 22, the first Archie that someone I talked to that he used to own. And I think it said like, it was like small amount of glue on spine or something. And he said, it's just like Elmer's glue, just like squirted along the spine, and you're never getting it out, you know? And so like there are things where you can't necessarily always just like trust that label. I bet that book has been cracked out so many times when people see that note and then they open it and they're like, F me. Like there's no way you're doing anything with this.
You know what's funny about that? If that book has in fact been cracked out multiple times, it's just funny to me that CGC would just continue to denote it as small amount of glue.
Well, and you know they know the book. Like it's such an uncommon book where they see, like somebody sees it come through, they're like, hey, there's that PEP 22 again. Guess somebody cracked it out. And it's just like, oh, we'll collect another, you know, grand grade in this thing.
Yeah. Well, two other little things just to point out, you know, we'll cover this I'm sure later on, or maybe on our various, you know, channels and stuff, but a giant size X-Men 1 in a 9.8 in a PSA is going up for sale. And this is one where just looking at this book, I'm like, man, they really should have whitened that cover. You know, it looks a little yellow to me from this photo. Could just be the photo, but like some blue light could have helped that one for sure.
Part with the PSA label. The PSA label has so much white on it that it's like a direct comparison to the white on the cover versus
I'm curious,
like
what's the cert number on that? Can you pull it up larger?
Yeah, let's see.
And it has a white page designation, right? Am I seeing that correctly?
Yeah, white page designation.
Nice.
That's you know, Ryan, that's a really good point. I've never even thought about that this white label gives you a direct white contrast comparison.
Sure, yeah.
And there's not a ton of books that really matters for, but there's some. I mean, like Avengers 4, obviously Giant Size X-Men 1. There's certain books that Fantastic Four #1 where like yellowing, like if you don't have like a direct reference, maybe you don't notice it as much, but when you have that like right in your face, you do see it.
I was just curious. I did pull up the I'll share my screen real quick.
Are there 9.8s of this book
curious
out
to
there
see what
that
the PSA scan looked like compared to the
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Are there 9.8s of this book out there that are like super white, like generally speaking?
That I
would say so.
I'm sure there are though.
Yeah,
just
you
like,
can kind of
like Avengers 4 there are,
but
they're few and far between.
Oh, that's the PSA scan there?
Yeah, this is the PSA scan. So you can see like what he's talking about with the white on the label versus the white on the book.
And especially since the white on the label is this bluish white, because there is this fine blue pattern in the back that makes it gives the illusion of even being more white, you know, this ice white sort of thing.
Yes, ice white versus it's a warm white on the book, you know,
versus a cool white on the label.
Cool white.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, just looking at even compared to this one, like I feel like the heritage
like, is that the PSA scan?
No,
this
that's
is the heritage scan.
And
then here's the PSA scan.
I feel like the heritage scan looks a little better.
I feel like it looks yellower.
Oh, I thought it looked less yellow.
Yeah, to me, I think it looks yellower. The heritage scan to me looks more yellow.
Is the dress pink or blue, guys?
Yeah, pink or blue. But that'll be an interesting one for us to kind of keep our eyes on, just like kind of temp check of where the market is. And then another one that, you know, I think it's funny is this one right here, you know, Spider Island. We're going to get an official GPA record on a 9.8, which you know, we had a comic link sale that we reported on, but
what did that comic link one do?
20? Yeah, it was like under, maybe it was 19, something like that. So this was the Modern Grail that had been, you know, just trucking along, still holding up pretty well, but definitely had a softer sale. And so the question is, what is the modern market going to look like after this week?
Do we like this book? Does anyone buy this book?
I love that book. I love that book. Yeah,
it's not very covered. No, so I'm curious, what do we think the PSA 9.8 does?
Under 20.
Well, the 94.
The most recent June 26 is about 25,000.
I think under 20.
Under 20. So he's 19.
I mean, there was a pretty big gap with that X-Men 94 that happened in the last one. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's under 20.
This book will sell for $38,000 and it will change everything.
And then Manu will own it.
And then it'll show up on Manu's IG feed while he's eating dinner with PSA.
So I just had a question because that came up with the dress thing. Were you guys a yellow and gold or the blue and black? Was it blue and black? For that dress? No, the meme. Remember that dress thing a long time ago?
I don't remember it well enough. I know what you're talking about, but I just don't remember.
I think I was a blue black. I think
because I was a yellow and gold. My wife was blue black, which was crazy with both of us being in like the same room looking at this thing. And I just remember that. I thought that one was one of the wildest little eye tricks.
I don't remember, but yeah, it was wild. I don't remember what I was. I have no idea.
But it was blue and black. My eyes don't work correctly, apparently.
Well, we'll definitely report on those comic sales and see where the high-end comic market is after this week. But before we get there, we have to check back in on the Marvel trading card market because, guys, we had a Topps Chrome Marvel hit the market. They had a couple actual comics went inside these trading cards situations, which I thought that this was really funny. Manu, I know you had like some opinions on these ones right here.
I got some stuff.
And it's funny because with some of the videos I've been seeing,
did you have that was the video I was looking for.
Posted this one. My thoughts on the new Topps Chrome Marvel release, just dropping them in the garbage. Neo, Manu, did you guys get in on this? Did you guys rip any of these Topps Chrome? Like, what's your thoughts on this? Like, I feel like Justin is the only one out there that has been enjoying it. But what was your kind of initial thoughts to the Topps Chrome, or what's the word on the street?
I haven't really, excuse me, I haven't really liked any of the Marvel releases from Topps to this point. The X-Men 97 set was like okay, and that was one of the first ones that they had out the gates. But most of the top Marvel stuff just does not do it for me. It's kind of just the same thing over and over again. It's just shiny chrome cards with reused artwork left, right, and center.
Like what's the hit? Like, what are
sketch cards and comic clippings?
Sketch cards, numbered stuff. Like they have those Wolverine cut cards where there's like their die cut. It's got like slash marks in the middle. It's just typical top stuff where you're just pulling the same card in a low number parallel.
Is it like a red or something like that?
There's
all sorts of stuff.
Steve Ditko auto.
This is cool.
I just thought it's like they had a seance to to get this card signed.
Yeah. Or it's like, but it's just funny because it's like, so did they buy like a Steve Ditko signed comic book and then cut it out, and then that's like a little comic clipping?
It looks like
like interesting.
That's where a lot of the stuff will come from, like checks or books, like physical books, not comic books.
Oh, so they go to the estate.
Like
they say, "Hey, do you got any leftover signatures anywhere?" Yeah,
this happens with like dead baseball players, like Mickey Mantle signatures. You'll see this a lot in even modern people. Like there was I think Robert Downey Jr. signed like a bunch of like books, and people went in and bought the books because they were pretty cheap, and then made custom cards out of them with the cut auto.
I mean that's why the on card autos are so much more desirable though.
Yeah,
it's because then you're not getting
right.
That.
Okay, I was going to ask,
but obviously, where there's those people
like,
that have died before on card autos existed,
right.
you got to play the hand that you're dealt.
Yeah, but it just feels like it's like, well, but then he didn't like sign this with intent. It's like it's not.
Yeah, it's manufactured.
Missing the spirit. Yeah. But I don't know, Manu, do you have other thoughts on the Topps Chrome or anything?
Well, first I want to shout out Justin. I mean, Justin's enthusiastic about Marvel cards, like full stop, and I'm sure he's enjoying this. I think actually, I just probably didn't realize he just recently sent me a couple of big pulls, I think, out of this product. I'll let him speak about those if he hasn't. There was one.
Yeah, he posted on IG. There was the 101 Scarlet Spider.
Yeah, did he mention what happened after he pulled it? Is any of that
no?
Public?
He might have, and I just didn't read it. I just saw the images.
Okay, so Justin is going to obviously dive into the product, enjoy the product, all of that. Shout out Justin, Spidey hits. And my take on it, I'm kind of with Neo. Like it's just like whatever, it kind of is uninspired. But what's hilarious to me is that when they did like that, first little look at the comic clippings. Oh yeah, shout out Justin. When they did the first little look at the comic clippings, well, that's what I call them, because Upper Deck used to call them comic cuts and comic clippings. And literally, for anyone that's not aware, they take a comic book, they cut out a page, a piece of a page, and they put it on the card. And they were like acting like it was something so special. And I get it. That's what you have to do. You have to market your product, advertise your product. But it's so funny. It's like, it's not that special. You cut a page out of a comic book, put it on a card, and called it a 101. It's not special. But what's special is the experience of a card collector that's not looking at it from the cynical, jaded perspective that I am, and is getting a 1 of 1. Same with those goofy autographs where no one actually autographed it. It says Spider-Man on it, but it's a 1 of 1.
Right? Like that's the same as any like 1 of 1.
It is. It's 10, the same. The notion of the manufactured 1 of 1 is stupid, quite frankly, but it inspires the chase, right? Because it's the one that's harder to get, and that's what happens. So then, and I don't know if this card is sold or not, I saw someone pull one of the black suit Spidey ones and listed it on eBay at $8,000. Now, a 1 of 1 out of a product for $8,000 is not unheard of. 1 of 1s out of these products sell for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, depending on which ones they are and what character there is. But it's amazing to me that you can cut out a piece of a comic book, put it into a piece of cardboard, stamp a 1 of 1 on it, someone can pull it and potentially get, $8,000, $10,000 for it. I don't know if that card's going to sell. Logical brain says, are you kidding me? Card brain says, yeah, someone's going to pay a boatload for it. And then the other thing that I saw, I'm just being super critical, is like I saw people really hyping up these sort of like not very great sketch cards, and they were like, oh my gosh, wow, look at this amazing sketch card. And there was one card in particular that I looked at, and the background looked better than the card, the artwork of Spider-Man on the card. Now, I don't know the artist, no shade to the artist, I don't have the image of the card, so it's not like I'm defaming something that we're looking at, but the hype that surrounds a new product is just so corny. Like, it's just so weird to me. It's like people get so excited about being force-fed nonsense and believing the notion and the narrative of it that it's just whatever. But it is what it is. It's kind of like when we're talking about relationships and 9.9s and 10s. This is the way of the world. If you want to make money, get involved and sell the stuff. If you don't like it, stay away. But it is fine to have an opinion. Clearly, I have an opinion. Do I like Marvel cards? I freaking love them. Am I going to engage with this product? Probably not. It doesn't have a good feeling to me. It doesn't feel like it connects with my inner child. It's just kind of gambling to make some money, which there's nothing wrong with. Like, that's fun too. Pull the 1 of 1s, make the money, but have fun talking shit about them too, if it's worth talking shit about them. Some of this stuff is fucking funny. That's it.
You just made me laugh because I feel like Mickey, that you need something where you can have like a clip pull up where it's that guy who's like, just buy more product, like that. Like that's
my god, the best. Yeah,
that's what I felt when I was hearing that.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually make that a little thing that I can always reference to. The shout out to Red Letter Media with the just consume product. That's the best meme on the internet.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
The difference here is between Tops and Upper Deck is you are seeing the difference in the Fanatics Breaker marketing machine, because to Manu's point, like, comic cuts have existed forever. They were generally like, if you were ripping Upper Deck product, if you hit a comic cut as your hit, like if you were opening Marvel Masterpieces or whatever, insert whatever high tier product here, metal, and you got a comic cut out of a metal product, and that was one of your hit slots, there's a decent chance you would be semi disappointed about that, unless it was like a banger cut. But 9 times out of 10, if you got a cut card out of your Spider-Man metal box or X-Men metal box, you'd probably be like, all right, well, it's all right. And now the Fanatics Breaker army gets behind it, and to your point, Manu, like pumping sketch cards or whatever, or just any card we're kind of like, it's not really that cool, guys, and they're going crazy for it. One, it's because they don't know any better. They have no history with they have no idea what's going on with the product. Not everybody, but a decent chunk of them. And they're just pumping it because they need to sell break slots. Like, it's as simple as that. Like, they need to sell the break spots for as much money as humanly possible, inflate the price of the product so the spots sell for more, inflate this value and know that's not actually there. When, let's be honest, you could go buy a box of Upper Deck product that's a fraction of the cost of some of this Topps Chrome stuff. That's a way better like, what are these going for? Are they like $500 a box still? I don't even know.
I'm not sure.
I was going to do a little bit of a report here. I'm on eBay sorted by highest price, and some of these numbered cards, like, I mean, maybe these are slash prices or offers, whatever, but like, I mean, 765, let's say that they're going for a few grand, some of these hits, which is,
I don't even think
crazy.
those Wolverine cards look that great.
Yeah, I don't like it either, Ryan. And if you didn't know, like, there's these Wolverine cards where it's like, it's got Spider-Man, but it's got claw marks like across
like a 90s comic book cover.
Yeah, aesthetically, I think that looks
I like
lame.
the one that doesn't have them more.
I'd rather bet on video games for the next 30 years than these.
Can you? Yeah. What's just like a remove? Just like do a sealed box.
Yeah. So I was gonna.
I'm just curious what a sealed box of this goes for, because I don't remember. That's cases. We want. Yeah. Those are megas.
This one right
there, $389 for a hobby box.
Yeah.
So just under $400. What is a box of Search for Spider-Man metal go for?
Is it?
Don't put a year. I don't remember what the year is on that. If you just put in Spider-Man metal sealed box.
Is this the one that was supposed to have original art as one of the inserts? Not
the blaster. We're getting a lot of junk here. Marvel Platinum. I don't see one. Really, do they not sell that?
Isn't that Spidey metal right there?
It's because there's
that's blasters. I want a hobby box.
Blasters. Yeah.
Is that one right there? Yeah.
242
from Canada. Yeah, like that's a way better product for half the price.
Bro, that product sucks though, Neo. Don't lie. Spidey Platinum, or what was it called? Spidey Platinum, right? Metal?
Spider-Man Metal.
That was such a garbage product.
At least you can pull PMGs out of that versus red claw mark cards.
Yeah. And I will share a fun story about comic cuts in this. And
wait, let me ask you this, Manu. Would you rather open a box of Dan Dos Santos Marvel Masterpieces for $1,000 or 2 boxes of Marvel Chrome for $800?
You know what? This is so funny. I mean, I'm just gonna go. I guess I just opened 2 boxes of the Chrome for $800. I know, that's a beautiful looking set. I've sold art from that set. I like that set. But I don't know. My answer, I just went with my gut. My answer was like, I'd probably just pay $800 and gamble with the new thing because it's more liquid and it's selling right now. That set, if you want to make money, you're gonna have to connect with that sort of niche buyer base. You're gonna have to be on Discords and all this and all that to find the buyers that's trying to complete this, complete whatever, appreciate the value of a high tier card. You kind of have to find the educated or re-educate. With this, the education's happening all over because the hype machine's behind it. I'd rather just gamble $800 and see if I can make some money, to be completely honest, because I really don't care about anything out of those sets, to be honest. So that's that answer.
Well, it's kind of interesting because, as you are talking about like this product that has just come out, again, I got to bring up Magic the Gathering, which has its Marvel superheroes. And, we checked in the price with those sealed boxes, Marvel superheroes sealed box, $427, still doing pretty good. Most recent sales. I would just much rather buy these things. Again, I'm biased, but it is crazy to see what people are paying for those hits in that Topps Chrome product compared to, I guess you could say, the chase cards for Magic the Gathering, or maybe the comic book covers. Like here's a Thanos one,
outside of
but like every box has a comic cover, doesn't it? Like at least from what
I don't think every box. Though.
What about that thing?
I saw that video where somebody was opening that like back right.
Top right, back right in each box, or 90%.
So it is guaranteed one per box.
It's not guaranteed. Like it wasn't every time, but it was.
It was 8 out of 10 in his situation, or something like that.
Interesting. So 8. Well, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. This is fun. We don't get this enthusiastic about Marvel cards all the time. Well, maybe we kind of do. But back to that Spidey metal. We were doing a stream on. Justin went crazy. Justin and a few of his friends went crazy when that thing came out, because that was a point in time where the Marvel card community was just dying for product, and that product was super late. It was like a year and a half or 2 years delayed or something, and it's all just reused art. There's nothing great looking in it. They did use a great Venom for the high tier Venom, or the low printed Venom, whatever the hell it was called. But in any case, we were doing a box break on the stream, and Alonzo was opening a box. I won't tell the rest of the story. I won't tell anyway. Alonzo was opening a box, and one of the most sought after chase in that product was because Upper Deck had bought an AF-15, and they did comic cuts out of the interior pages, and then they made the cover one of the redeemable things that if you spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on e-pack, yeah, that Venom's amazing. Obviously, there's that Venom, the ASM 299 last page cameo Venom McFarlane, right? And so there was this thing that you had to do on e-pack to try to be in the running for the actual front cover that was cut up of the AF-15. And we know the gentleman that bought it, he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars pursuing this thing. Like, there's an irrational sense of enthusiasm. The market is real, right? It's just fun to criticize it. And then, but on that stream, Alonzo's opening a box, pulled one of the AF-15 comic clippings out of the box. And at that very point in time, I don't know what it is right now, at that moment, he could have sold that comic clipping for 20 to 30K, no question. Because one of them did after that sell for the 20-something thousand dollar mark. But that was amazing to be on the stream when it got pulled, because we were so pumped about it. Like an AF-15 comic clipping, not that I'm enthused about cutting up the AF-15, but it is the ultimate chase from that product, and it got pulled on the stream. That was very exciting. Who knows what it would sell for now? Probably still would do really well, I'm sure. But then yes, the individual that got the AF-15 full page that they cut up and put into 9 different cards, he spent a couple $100,000 on e-pack to do the achievements that allowed him to get lucky enough to get that. But like, wow, that's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Marvel card market is crazy. Topps Chrome, I'm kind of shocked how much some of those chase hits are selling for. But I didn't click for me until Rob, you did mention the Fanatics machine. It's different. This is different.
I mean, Marvel cards have been around forever. Upper Deck, we say comics could never, Upper Deck could never. Like, that's
right.
It's literally played out directly in front of you. The difference between what happens when you have an army of breakers behind you pumping a product is just literally look at current releases of Marvel cards, which in most people's opinions, like that actually collect Marvel cards, are worse than the Upper Deck product, and they sell for way more money.
So to that point, then, what does the future look like for Marvel card collecting? Is this a good thing for collectors? Is Marvel cards going to start to become like a thing that people really, look forward to collecting here? Or is this just like this product, this one-off situation?
Well, no, this is repeated a couple different times. So like they've done this multiple times with Marvel Chrome.
But what's the long
new license, right?
On that? Like, if these things are only really getting juiced when you've got these breakers pumping them, like what is that like slash card look like 3 years from now or 2 years from now? Does anybody even want it?
Who knows? Because they're going to keep making them. This is not the first time that they've done the slash card. They did it in other versions. They've changed up like the way the claws look and stuff. But
yeah, I'm sure 10 years from now, someone's going to be like, but this was the first slash card. It was the beginning of slash cards, and that'll try to be the value proposition of that one. They do that with PMGs and stuff like that. PMGs obviously started in a sports product, right? Metal basketball. And in whatever year, Upper Deck put out a product, I forgot the year, 2013, 2014. I'm going to get that wrong. I don't remember.
For Marvel cards?
For Marvel cards.
And retro. I think it was 2013.
2013, right? And they introduced PMGs, and it was like this crossover, chase card, this sort of IP or whatever, this product that Upper Deck originated and owns, or however the hell it worked. And that was the proposition. Like, this is the first PMG, and it's a big sports card thing, so it matters here as well. I never got onto the PMG bandwagon, but I certainly watched that market go absolutely apeshit and then somewhat collapse. But PMGs are still expensive. The low numbered ones for the dope characters are still pretty expensive.
Even a Red out of 90 with the right character still sells for like a few $1,000. Like,
hell yeah,
like a Spider-Man PMG is still a big card, even though
they're still liquid. There's still a buying audience. You're not stuck holding the bag. The bag just might be a little lighter than it was in 2022, but whose bags aren't?
Didn't they grade really poorly?
Really poorly.
They're very
really
hard to grade.
Poorly. Yeah.
They're very hard to grade.
The foil flakes a lot.
Yeah,
or it's flaky
very
out of the
condition
package.
sensitive.
Yeah.
I mean, the interesting thing is going to be like I said, like I like Marvel cards. There is yet to really be a Topps product that has grabbed my interest, and I don't think I'm the only person that feels this way.
Yeah.
So I would really want to see like what when we talked about it after the Topps conference. Like, what does their first like truly all original artwork set look like? What
That's
does
what I
their
wanna
version
see.
of
Yeah.
Marvel masterpieces look like? Whatever they come up with to mirror that product.
Yeah.
Those are the things we haven't seen yet. So I think it's still TBD on that stuff until we see that type of product come out. But right now they're basically in the all right, let's put some chrome on it and put a serial number in the corner and print money.
Pretty much.
That makes sense. I mean, it is kind of sad. I want to manifest this too. That'd be cool if you know, they did do an original art set. And can we go back to like the powers on the back of the card situation? Like, you know, none of this like I don't know what they put on the back. So they put like, you know, whatever, like some blog about like the characters. Like, I want to go, you know, power scale 1 to 10, strength, agility, stamina. We need the powers back. Bring the power scale back to Marvel cards. That's what I want.
Guys, hold on.
All right. Well, Manu, we're gonna go to your last.
Out.
Yeah, we'll go to Manu's minute. You know, could be, you know, we could finish on the thing that he wants to show, but you know, last little, just quick little, you know, funny, or I guess actually not so funny, but you know, better protection for you at a Pokemon card show, Rob. Would it be to bring a strap to protect yourself from getting robbed? Or maybe the real protection is just to show up super smelly to where no one would ever want to come near you. But why don't we address these two stories really quick? Rob, you can just kind of do a quick little recap on this one. But, you know, it's getting out crazy out there in those Poke streets.
Yeah, this one was a show in New Jersey at a hotel. And essentially, I guess I talked to some people in the TCG space. I guess this dealer is pretty well known for having very, very nice product. Essentially, they were cased while they were in the show, and as soon as they walked out, an SUV pulled up, and I think it was like 3 armed dudes jumped out at gunpoint and took all their shit and ran off with it. In the middle of this was after the show closed, while dealers were unloading, so it wasn't like they grabbed the first dealer that walked out the door. Like 50 dealers had already left. There was still like another 50 in the building to go. And they just, as soon as these guys walked out the door, they pulled right up on them. I guess the dad confronted them, got the shit kicked out of them. It went sideways pretty quickly. No shots fired, thankfully. The guy did say that, you know, he does normally carry, but he couldn't because it was in New Jersey, and every state has different laws on that. And I don't know. You know, I'm very pro conceal carry, but when the guys jump out of the SUV with the guns already on you and drawn, I don't know that if you have your concealed carry piece, you know, in your holster or in your waistband or in your ankle, that's going to do a lot of good anyway. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, my comment on that, I feel like he's probably lucky he couldn't carry, because he probably would have tried to pull his gun and probably would have been shot. You know, like that's like, you know, it's like it sucks, but it is still just stuff. Yeah. And so it's better not to end up dead over it.
The thing that this has brought up is like the conversation around being hyper aware of what you're doing as both a dealer and a show attendee, you know, because as I talked about in the video that I did on this, you know, you walk the national show floor, for example, and it's not uncommon to see money counters out on tables with hundreds of tens of thousands, if not $100,000 in cash, just changing hands in a very public view. Like, it's not hard for someone to be like, oh, what's going on there? And then just follow that person around that either got the cash or the card back to their car, back to their hotel, whatever. And it's also kind of brought up the conversation around, like, what do you do in your own home? Like, do you have an insurance policy? Do you keep your stuff in a vault? Do you keep your stuff on site? Like, how do you kind of manage the security of your collectibles, whether it be like actual security or just having some sort of insurance policy on your stuff to cover you in the event of something like this, or even just, you know, heaven forbid, like your house catching on fire or a flood or a tornado or who knows what else. So it's kind of brought this all up of everyone like, hey, maybe this is just a good time to like evaluate like what you're doing with your current situation, and maybe this is a good opportunity to relook at that.
Friend of the channel, Drew over at Como Comics, he always mentions, he talks about the flammability of cards and comics, and that kind of thing, and
Inside plastic case, no
the
less.
risks of investing in those types of things. And it's like, yeah, you should have an insurance policy. You absolutely should. I know a lot of people don't like to, they feel like they're wasting money or whatever. It's like, cause it's just down, it's not something you get back, but it's a peace of mind thing, and that's why I'm a big proponent of having those types of policies. But man, like the shows though, it just makes you think like, even like, cause I think I saw some comments maybe like how you have like dealer friends come out with you. It's like, what are they going to do? It's like somebody comes.
Yeah, this was in the middle of unload.
Like,
there was tons of people
like,
around that saw this happen. But like, what are you gonna do when you got 3 guys jumping out with guns? Like,
yeah, and so it's like you go like, okay, so what eventually becomes the responsibility or the responsible party here? Like, should the show have security that goes with every person to their cars? Is it like, I think Heritage, when they were at whatever one of the big recent shows was, when they had that like vault on site. It was, I think, the one maybe you guys were at. And so, or maybe it was Heroes. I think it was Heroes. They had the vault on site.
They usually have.
And I think they said they had security with them. It's like, should you be bringing security with you to, to cover this stuff? And it's like, if you're dealing with $1 million in product or hundreds of thousands of dollars in product at your table, you probably should start considering that. Like, that's a cost you now have to accept.
It is pretty crazy. I mean, people get super desensitized. I mean, I just think to myself, like all the conversations, I have at cons and shows where, as someone is chatting with other people or I'm chatting to them, they're just holding like an Action 1 in their hands with their arms folded, like, yeah, da, 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 and they're just chatting, waving it around. And it's like, you just forget that you have a 7-figure comic in your hand, or in this case, you have 6 figures of Pokemon in your pocket. And it's just you got to be careful.
Well, and then on top of it, you have like the flex culture of social media of you're like live streaming you buying like a $20,000 card book, whatever, while you're at the show, and you're just like literally broadcasting like, hey, here I am with this super expensive thing that I'm gonna be carrying around with me the rest of the day in whatever big city that I'm in. It's just like, I'm actually, as scary as it sounds, I'm surprised that more craziness hasn't happened. Like the amount of money that is floating around, specifically like some of these high-end card shows, and a lot of them do have some security, a lot of them have a lot of security, a lot of them have no security for small local shows. I'm just waiting for the day where it's like a full-blown, like, almost like, how they run in and like they'll rob an Apple store and they'll just grab everything and run out before anyone could even really do anything. Like, I'm surprised we haven't seen something like that where a bunch of people run in with guns and just start grabbing shit and then just take off as quickly as possible. And the scary part is, and like I said earlier, like I'm pro carry and everything, but the last thing that you also want is like a straight out, okay corral at the card show. Like there's a lot of kids and families and stuff in there. Like there's just a lot of situations where this can go super sideways super quick for everybody involved.
Well, I mean, at some point, if something, say, really bad does happen, the places that would actually hold these might be unwilling to host them. If the insurance liability becomes too large for some of this stuff, like I don't. It's one of those things with collectibles that, just like in the media and everything else, like I don't think a lot of these entities really understand the value of the things that are in their building. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those places that are like holding these shows or hosting these shows, like, I mean, even like the local place I go to that just has like a little show like once a month, there's probably, I don't know, $1 million in stuff just in that room. It's just like in a fire hall, it's like at a fire station, and it's like that kind of thing. Like I don't, and like at the National, it could be, who knows, hundreds of millions that are in that room. Like, I mean, I don't think people fully, like the people that are hosting these, not the people hosting, the people that are being paid to have it in their building, maybe fully understand the value of the stuff that is there.
Well, be safe out there, especially if you're attending Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, because everyone's nose is at risk when they go. But we don't need to spend on this. We're going to kick it over to Manu's Minute. But I just had to bring it up because I thought it was hilarious. Card shop suspends Yu-Gi-Oh tournament over smelly players. An Oregon card shop announced on its Discord channel that it has halted a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament for a week after receiving multiple complaints and bad reviews due to smelly players. I mean,
Just got to
guys,
spray them down before they come in, you know?
what are we doing? What are we even doing? You know, go take a shower. All right, we're at the end of the show. Manu wants to share something. This is the official Manu's Minute section. What do you got, Manu?
We're deep into the show. So the Manu's Minute, that's weird to say, but there was a friend from the last episode that mentioned something, and then he sent me the article, and I did DM it to you, the image of it if you want to pull it up, but I want to get to that in a second. But prior to that, there are a couple of things that I just want to talk about, and I'm going to go get some more clarity on. But a few episodes ago, this card related stuff, a few episodes ago, we talked about how PSA did away with the OC on cards. When you submit a card, if it's off center, you're not going to get a grade with the OC in parentheses and then have to do some calculation in your mind about what that's worth. They had gotten rid of the OC, but a friend recently sent in a submission, got one of the cards back, and it got the OC on it. He didn't request it. He wasn't spoken to about it. It literally got an 8 parenthesis OC. So apparently the OC thing is back. Now, obviously we have friends at PSA. We could just reach out and find out what's happening, but we're not. We're just talking about it, speculating and saying, guys, OC's back. So that's a game changer in some ways, or something has shifted there. And then along the lines of Marvel cards and fun nostalgia, physical stuff, I know this isn't a show and tell, but I picked up something. It was not expensive. I believe it should be pricier. I won it at an auction on eBay. But in 1994, Cookie Crisp, the cereal, had Spider-Man cards. There's 12 in the set. 6 of them came out of the package. 6 were redeemable. You had to take like the UPC off of 2 or 3 packages and ship them in. You get a card. But this is the Spidey card from it, and it's the only PSA 10. But I love that. It's from the Cookie Crisps cereal box, and it's the only PSA 10. So I had to grab that real quick. It was less than $200. It should be more. But now the real Manu's Minute was, we had a friend in the last episode, Phil Dispenza, was mentioning that a friend of his had the first CGC 10. And it happened to be that Venom Lethal Protector 1 Black Error, which is just amazing that that's what it was. And then he DM'd me the article, and I think the article is fun. It's a blast from the past. So if you guys don't mind, it's not going to take too long to read it. I just want to read it real quick, if that's okay. So, and then we'll look at this picture, because under the picture it says Adventure Planet Regional Manager Phil Dispenza, who's our friend who was with us, CGC Primary Grader Steve Borak. Is that Borak in the middle? And then Adventures Planet Silver Age Specialist Gary Platt display the first comic book graded 10 by CGC, cover variant Lethal Protector. And I think Gary's the owner of the book. So anyway, the article starts, New Jersey firm has first 10.0 CGC comic. Only a handful of comic books have been graded 10 by Comics Guarantee Corporation. CBG has only seen 4 online sales of them to date, but there's only one first one. This spring, Adventure Planet of Edison, New Jersey sent in a Venom Lethal Protector 1 Black variant that became the first comic book to be graded a 10 mint by CGC. Phil Dispenza, Adventure Planet's regional manager, said that as one of the 100 charter members of CGC, his firm had to be very early to recognize the market for professionally graded comics. CGC contacted Adventure Planets in March to inform them that their Venom 1, a black variant of which only hundreds are suspected to exist, had been graded a 10. They later invited store reps to the CGC headquarters. The Venom Black variant appears to be a product of a printing error where black ink covers part of the red foil and says that they do not appear intentional. Adventure Planet's Gary Platt said that this is the best estimate was about his best estimate was about 200 copies, but that figure is certainly not a firm one. I got it from an established retailer who remembers talking with Marvel reps about it when the error was first discovered. I do know this. Attend any major show and you will usually not see even one copy of Venom 1 with the black error cover. I saw one sell for $275 at a convention in Philadelphia a few years ago. Wizard listed it at $250 before they pulled it from their guide a few years ago due to all the counterfeits. The first issue has now been restored to their guide. But what's interesting about that little tidbit is when we talked about this on the last episode, I said I can't confirm nor deny, but it has been said that there are counterfeits, and I talked about some of the things to look for as they've been expressed and told to me, and some of the counterfeits have been said to have gone through grading through CGC. So just because they're encapsulated doesn't mean they might not be. But this article from way back when already talks about the counterfeit, so I thought that was interesting. And then it's really brief. Overstreet and CBG Comic Base are much more conservative in their estimates, but unslabbed near mint copy on eBay was going for $128 at press time with 5 hours to go. Dispenza said the eventual plan could be to sell the copy at auction on eBay, where Adventure Planet now auctions comic books daily under their handle Adventure Planet. And then it gives some contact information for the shop. But I thought that's amazing. Now, apparently Gary still owns this book, and there's a huge number that he wouldn't let it go for less than. And I think that's amazing. So it's cool to have been told that in our chat by our friend that was with us, and then have the article about it. And that's just a blast from the past. So that's what I wanted to share today.
Yeah, that's super cool.
I think so.
It's a very, very cool story, and that's very cool collectible for them to have. But it has to be said, how is it going to be that they had to get a black air variant to get a 10-0? You know, all those years back then, the first 10-0 was a black table. There's all these Venom lethals. Just
you can't write
copies,
this stuff. You can't make this stuff up, man.
They were networking day one.
They were the
CGC,
first 100 charter members.
Copy. Yep. There you go.
Well, yeah, it used to, like, I don't know the history totally on CGC, but you couldn't just like submit. It was like you had to be, it was very specific people that were allowed to submit. So it was nothing like it is today.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. It's in the DNA to network.
So Phil, if you see this, thank you for all that. It's in the DNA. It's in the DNA. The whole thing started with relationships. There's some really fun stories if you want to burn some bridges, but maybe we don't do that right now.
Definitely not right now. But what we are going to do right now is wrap up the show. Guys, it's been another banger. I want to say thank you to everyone in the chat for hanging out tonight. If you haven't yet, hop on over to the Ungraded Truth YouTube channel, link in the description. Go give us a subscribe, then bounce on over to our Spotify page where you can follow us. You know, give us a 5-star review. We need more. Okay, we're just a couple away from 30. We got to get to our milestones here, so we definitely would appreciate that. And of course, a big shout out to the sponsor of our show tonight, Elite Comics11. Be sure to go give them a follow, the #1 community-powered comic page on social media. Shout out to the guys over at Elite for sponsoring the show tonight. And shout out to our panel. Thank you guys all for hanging out. Hope you guys had a wonderful long weekend. Happy 4th of July to you all. And with that, we're going to wrap up the show because I got to watch the end of Mexico and England. Thanks, guys. Peace out. Detective Comics set a record for 1.8 million. Nobody really cares.
Who are annoyed that people are asking them questions, is this book banned? That question didn't exist a year ago.
Somebody's submitting like 25 vintage books and getting 15 9.9s.
We always think, how could it ever get crazier? And then it always does.